The following program deals with a controversial
subject.
The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation.
The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information.
The top talents in the comic book business are here to tell everything they know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Tuesday night here on Beyond Wednesdays, another Industry of Comics show. We have a retailer roundtable tonight for the ages. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Jesse from Jesse James Comics.
Is it episode 69 yet?
We got Dennis from Wonderworld Comics. We got Emmett from Haven for Heroes, and we got Sean from Comics Elite, and we might have more showing up throughout the show. We're going to get into the question tonight. What is going on in the world of the variant cover, and how are retailers dealing with it right now? Because the block is hot right now, as they say. It is really hot for the retailer, the comic book retailer who specializes in retailer exclusive variants. It's been very interesting. We had a crazy week talking about IP infringement, AI art aping and art lifting, and a lot of retailers started seeing this and asking the right questions. And tonight we decided to bring Sean on because Sean had a post on Facebook that was pretty epic. I think that when somebody sees a post like that from one of the retailers who kind of was instrumental in this retailer exclusive game and where everything has went, it was pretty eye-opening, man. That post was wicked, bro.
Yeah, it's it's been coming for a while, and it's just one of those moments where you're like, just got to get this off my chest after a few conversations with people,
Yeah.
And what it kind of boils down to is, when the money's flowing, everything's great. Like, hey, here's my cover rate. Hey, no problem. Hey, I want this amount. Hey, great, I got you. And I want so much of the print run too. Okay, I guess we'd make that work. And I'm going to charge you per signature. I usually charge 10, but I'm only going to charge you guys 5. Okay, sure, yeah. When things are selling, there's enough money to go around. That's kind of the saying in the industry, right? Is if you're not greedy and you make a little bit of money on this project, a little bit on this project, a little bit on this project, that's how you build a successful business, right?
Amen.
Well, when sales are down and they're continuing to go down, and you lose money on project after project after project eventually, and these guys are messaging retailers, hey, you got any work for me? It's like, no. I don't. It's like sales are down. And then I've actually had a few artists say, hey, what can I do for you? Like, you know what, I'll reduce my rate. Like, I'll give you a reduced rate. I'll knock it down a little bit. I'm grateful for the work. I like being, there's something to be said too for just having a cover done and having it published and having a retailer talk about your name and getting you out there and showing your work, and a certain amount of clout involved in that. It's free advertising for the artist too. There's lots of, it's a win-win situation, but when nobody wants to, some people don't want to budge. It's like, okay, well, I'm just not working with you anymore. Good luck. Hey, mad at you. Hey, that's your rate. That's your rate. Got you. Again, not mad at you at all. I've heard people say, I'm not picking up a pencil for less than this much money. Okay. Hey, man, I envy you that position. I wish I was that good. I wish I was in that high demand. For the average Joe, it's not the case. So,
well,
everybody has to adjust.
There's this big change that has happened in the industry of comics over the last 5 years that has just, it's such a big shift. It feels like, there's a big fault line that just shifted, and everything had to kind of fall into the places where they could get in. Different places we're not going to do that anymore. We have the whole thing that happened with Diamond where, Diamond's no longer, the comic industry has changed already rapidly. We have that going on. We have this crazy thing going on in the world of comic conventions, where over the last year or two, it's really become this place to just unload so many different variants. And it's not the same way it used to be, where you would go in and you would go to Unknown Comics booth and they would have all their variants there. You go to Comics Elite booth, they'd have their variants there. It's that, and it's dropping all these variants on these live selling platforms. You're flooding the market with these variants. You also have this thing that's going on, like you're talking about, Sean, where artists are now able to become the retailer, right? They're able to do what the retailer does these days. Now, they probably couldn't do it 10 years ago because the retailer was more based in a brick and mortar store. There was more to it. There's all these companies that will do stuff for them, fulfillment services, crowdfunding platforms, all that crazy stuff. A retailer or a creator can do all this on his own. So so much has changed in so quick of a time. And there's some good changes that go along with it too. And I want to say to everybody out there that saw the thumbnail and saw the Instagram post where it says, "Rest in peace, the variant age." And I don't want them to think that we're saying that variants are dead. I don't think that variants are dead. I think that they're dead as we knew them. And what I mean by that is, I don't think they're going to stop. I think that the 3,000 print run on a variant, an exclusive retailer variant, no more. I think that's a dead game. I think that most retailers, if they're going to do a retailer exclusive variant, they're going to keep the print run, 1,000 or below, and they'll figure out how to make their money on those things there, rather than what it used to be, where you could sell out, 1,000 comics over a year on online sales and convention sales. So it's very interesting to see how this is playing out.
Yeah, and I think what you're going to see is these LTDs are then be 250, not 1,000. 1,000 is a lot of freaking books. So look for LTDs to go from 100 to 250. I think what this is you got to keep your allies close. So I have 3 exclusives coming out for my grand opening: Brian Polito, Rob Michaels, Tom Hutchinson. Done. End of story. I can work with those 3 allies.
How did you get a hold of those guys?
Oh, I don't know. Just crazy, right? Crazy. And that I don't go out of my little corral anymore. I just stick with my allies. I know they're going to work with me. I can work with them. So I think we're going to see some structural exclusives coming out where it's more partner to partner, understanding both goals in the end.
I think that's, totally, for sure. I think that people are the smart guys that are doing it right now, and we've talked about this for a while. I think the guys that are smart that are doing it right now are picking their when to do what. You know what I mean? Like they aren't going to drop a ton of money on something if there's a chance that it's not going to be a hit. Whereas in the past it felt like, and you guys tell me, in the past it felt like guys would just half of them didn't even know what was on the cover. Nope, go ahead.
It's a gun for hire, right?
Yeah.
It's just like,
there's so many people that, I mean, you can go back through the history of things, and COVID was a boom for everybody. They gave everyone free money, made them stay home. And then that combined with the fact that the speculator market was going nuts based on the MCU. Anytime a character was announced for a movie or speculation of a casting, that first appearance is taken off, and then we haven't seen a combination like that, I don't think, ever since the 90s when Image was going nuts, right? Like, and now we're all adjusting to this new universe, this new world, and like you said, Brian, with the 3,000, 1,000. You're talking at just 3,000 trade dresses. That's a $9,000 project.
That's
add the
minimum.
Trade dresses, add the virgins in there. That's a $12,000 project.
Yeah.
And then now, like you said, not only are you, as a retailer, I'm investing, let's just say $9,000 into this, right? An artist in the past used to be, what do I get out of this? You get a Marvel cover and you get your cover rate.
Yep.
now, like you said, I got to compete against an artist. So now not only do you want to, okay, charge me for this thing, I get it. Okay, that's fair. Okay, no problem. Not going to harm anybody that. Hey, if I'm going to give you a Marvel cover, can I get something for free? Whatever. Now it just turned into this animal of, I want 10% of the print run, 5% of the print run. Now I'm competing against this person selling on his website, offering signatures and special COAs, remarks, whole 9 yards. And there's no way I'm going to make that $9,000 back. It's going to take me years to make it back. Go to Unknown Comics website right now. He's been dumping his product for ages. $3 trade dresses, buy whatever, get whatever free, foils at cost. Like, it's making $1 on these things.
Okay, so here's
if he's even making $1.
So here's my perspective on this, Brian, based off of your question. You have to know your history, and we've talked about it countlessly on here. Okay, at the point at which we had 10,000 comic book stores, we had Nicky Barucci on QVC selling limited edition autographed books to the tune of 10,000 unit print runs. And people were buying these for $20, $30, $40 a piece. Dynamic Forces in the back of previous catalogs. Every publisher was doing it. Limited 5,000, limited 10,000. The sports card market was doing limited of 10,000, chase cards. And if you follow these, you'll know those print runs could be absorbed with 10,000 stores. If you have 5,000 stores order a rare variant of 10,000, that's 2 per store, and they go out into the market. But the second eBay came around in like 99, 2000, all of a sudden you see, the market had crashed. The industry had kind of rebounded with Ultimate Spider-Man #1 in 2001. The industry was down to, I think, 2,500, 3,000 stores. Jesse, is that about right?
Yeah, about that number. Yeah.
So that was the rebound, was in that era. But that was right around when eBay came along and exposed that limited edition of 10,000, and there's 300 people posting it to eBay. And as those 300 people posted one copy to eBay, and they might have 2 or 3 copies, all of a sudden it was a race to the bottom to try to sell them. And that's when limited edition books were selling for $1, $5, $10, way under what the people originally paid for them. And that kind of set where the bar was. The industry knew where that bar was. They didn't make that kind of limited edition shit for a long time. And then all of a sudden, like Sean said, COVID starts happening. All these limited editions started going up. I took part in it. I mean, I made the Jezervik Ultimate Fallout 4 variant. Immediately, Europe releases a variant. Mexico releases a variant. My variant gets crushed. It's the exact same thing. And it's just like, I feel bad for the customers that bought those from me, because I made something that was a rare commodity. There were probably less than 3,000 of the original. There was less than 3,000 less, a couple hundred damages of mine. It's in parity with what the original was. Here's a inexpensive cost, but then when the foreign market gets a hold of it, it makes the exact same thing. And then, if you remember, there was about 20 knockoff retailer and artist exclusive variants of the Jezervik that weren't a Jezervik, but they looked like a Jezervik. That muddied up the water and killed what I think is probably one of the best variants I ever made.
But don't you think, I guess this is the question to the DS here, don't you think when we're talking about the golden age of selling exclusives, it was exclusively to LCSs?
I would say yes. I think so. In my opinion, the golden age was right when Death Metal 1 was coming out.
Yep.
And Bulletproof had all those Matina covers, and Delato was doing covers. These guys were selling out of close to all their 3,000 print run books. They would have, I remember waiting in line at cons to be able to buy those books and have them signed. And I was flipping them, you know, making some good money on them. In my opinion, when the Venom verse was coming out, Venom was hot everywhere, man. Everything was venomized. Of course, just like anything, Marvel beat something to death, right? But when the Venomized stuff first started coming out, and it was new and it was fresh and it was exciting, and you know, the different universes and the Spider-Verse and Venomverse, that was so exciting. We got great characters out of that stuff. You know, we got Gwen, Spider-Gwen out of that, and all this great stuff. That, to my opinion, that was the heyday.
Yeah, you got a lot of great characters. That, and I agree with you. That is, to me, that is the heyday too, Sean.
Yeah, and then you know, Jesse's kind of right about that, because I know many guys that were doing a crap ton of Marvel and DC covers literally out of their garage. All you need was a diamond account. That's all you needed was a diamond account. And as we know, it's not difficult to get a diamond account or a lunar account.
It wasn't.
Or, you know.
And I guess, which nobody winked and nudged me, you don't have to pay your bill.
Those chickens are going to come home to roost, Emmett. Don't worry. Paying your bill was a good thing.
Well,
somebody in the chat said the JC comic stuff is Sean's argument. The artists are making too much money. No, man. What I was saying was it's even more difficult for retailers to do exclusives now, because you're competing against the artist with your own variant.
Yep.
That's the whole point. It's just tough, man. It's tough to do, you know. And you know what I want to say is, I mean, okay, some artists can do their own variant. They can afford to do them. Look at Gleason with the webhead variants. I think he did the versions of those on his own, meaning he had a store help him do it, you know, because these guys aren't set up for fulfillment, shipping, and at the mass scale it takes to do some of this stuff. But, you know, some of these guys can do smaller runs like that. But, I mean, an artist can't afford to do $9,000 invested into themselves into a cover. So,
but why?
You know,
I think they can.
Well, not your average one.
Not all of them.
Maybe some high. Campbell obviously can. You know, I mean,
Scotty
he's been doing
Young.
it forever, but there's not a lot of Campbells out there.
The problem is that what people, this whole get the bag, don't understand is that this business is an ecosystem. It all feeds off each other. If you try to destroy and crush, we need more comic stores, not less comic stores. We need more artists, not less artists. We need more
readers.
This whole, we need, well, who makes the readers? That's the other thing, is that, like,
LCS.
does an artist on his own website selling a version of a book people don't know about? That doesn't make readers who are going to be the long term. We need long term, unless you want to be 5 years and out.
This industry doesn't ever act like it needs to be a game warden. You know, they see the prey, or the whatever, the predator, or the what do they call the prey? Yeah. They see the prey out on the prairie, and they just start killing until they run out of prey, and then they start wondering where all the animals went.
Well, yeah, I hear what you're saying. There's no long term, but then again, you can't be mad at somebody too for that. Like, let's say I'm Joe Blow artist, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to make as much money on this as I possibly can. You know here's what's misleading. Sometimes retailers we're our worst enemies. You ever see somebody say something sold out, and then it's not sold out at all?
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure.
I remember a long time ago when Shannon Mayer was doing these Comic Mint variants. You would see all the time, sold out, sold out, sold out, sold out. And you're like, damn, and the aftermarket's taken off. And these things are crushing it. And then I never forget, I saw somebody's post. He took a picture of their booth, and it said, hey, does anybody want any of these sold out Comic Mint variants? They got a ton of them at their booth.
Wow,
here.
Yeah.
But what's funny is, back in the day when we were doing exclusives, the publisher would pay the artist. Right? They would do everything for you. So it wasn't a matter of having to negotiate. You would just say, hey, I want Marat. They would contact Marat. They would pay Marat. Here's your book.
Well, that's how
they're supposed to do it, because then they own that art. So again, not to get too deep in the weeds here, but in a perfect world, Marvel needs to pay Brian to do a cover, because if whoever pays him technically owns that art.
Right. Yeah.
And I have the publishing rights. I might not own the character. We can get into that later,
Sure.
right? But,
Yeah. Anthony, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. Am I sounding all right?
Yeah, you sound good, dude. You sound good, dude.
Okay. I never get to stream from my own desk. Usually my wife sits here, so I don't know any of her shit that's here. So.
Don't move anything.
I was actually nervous about that. I adjusted the chair height, and I'm like, this is my chair. But I went through my head first.
Oh, my gosh. Well, here's something interesting. Both Anthony and Sean, both of you guys have something interesting that you've done. I think both of you guys kind of started off in this game as what we would call an online retailer, right? You started off with like you said, doing stuff out of your garage, doing stuff out of your house, and both of you now have gone to open up your own brick and mortar stores, which is very interesting to me, because for the last 2-3 years we've been saying that's not the thing to do, and it's funny because all of a sudden, very rapidly, there's a big part of me that's going, well, maybe it's not the thing to do for everyone, but it is the thing to do to keep the hobby alive. Does that sound right, Anthony? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh man, I think that it's evolved, and the online platform has its place. And as does a brick and mortar. You don't want to lose those purists that want to put paper in their hand and walk in and find cool things. Like we're dealing in nostalgia and feelings, and you have to create that feeling in that space for a person to want to participate in, which I jumped in your guys' conversation, which is the problem with our industry. Everybody wants to be a jack of all trades, as opposed to doing. I used to have this wrestling coach that said, don't do 10 things good. And I'd rather you do one thing great. And we've got too many guys, artists that want to be retailers. We've got retailers that are hobbyists that have no business acumen, and it's kind of all over the place and kind of hard to keep up with, and it just makes it very muddy.
Did you decide to open a retailer store because you saw the change? What was the reason that you decided to open a brick and mortar store, Ant?
Honestly, it was I've always just wanted to, after the 12 years or whatever, how long we've been doing this. And it made sense because we graduated up to our online streaming got big enough where we were renting warehouse space. So it wasn't an overhead problem. That's always what it comes down to. You don't want the overhead. Well, I was already paying for it for 2,000 square feet or whatever it was. And so it was a lateral move money-wise, so it didn't hurt us, especially since we have the online presence. I think without an online presence, it's really hard for brick and mortars, unless you've been dug in and everybody knows you, like Dennis and Jesse. You guys are established. You're not going anywhere as names or whatever you guys are doing now. But anybody that's new, like, you've got to be able to hit multiple pieces of the pie, or it's going to be a tough time.
Yeah.
I call it sales channels. Well, everybody does. I just made that up. You got to have, you can't just, we've talked about this many, many times. How many LCSs closed because they refuse to adapt to the times? Even something as basic as opening a Facebook page and having a website. I mean, I started from same as Jesse, started on live sales.
Yep.
And now I got four whatnot channels, a website, an eBay store, a brick and mortar store, conventions. I'm sure I'm forgetting something. Wholesale, all the ways to sell comics. You got to be able to move, have all your channel, and each one of those sales channels requires sellers, requires customer service, requires fulfillment, requires understanding of the basics of that sales channel. Just opening a brick and mortar, like Anthony was saying, I opened mine on accident. I just needed more space to keep all my shit. I wasn't even trying to have a store. I just needed a warehouse. The next thing you know, I was like, oh, I guess I can put a sign on the store, and I guess I'm a store. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
All right. Then you realize you got to have a point of sale system and labor law posters. You got to hire people, and next thing you know, you're into all this crap that you never know how to deal with.
It's a totally different ballgame.
Payroll and sales taxes, like,
what are you talking about? We're out of toilet paper. I mean, reality. Anthony, tell me about the reality of your first day opening your store from going from, hey, I'm busy, I'm doing this, to maybe that downtime, that first time you felt 30 minutes of not talking to a customer.
Yeah, Laura told me I think I had like a panic attack, which I can handle lots of different shit. But like the retail store plus everything we were doing and the things I didn't have change in my till the first 2 days. Like it didn't even cross my mind. I'm an online retailer. Some guys like, can I pay with cash? I was like, I love cash. Can you break 100? No, I can't break 100. I didn't have any money in the register. It was ridiculous. And I had this crazy panic attack. And it goes back to my first point. I thought I wasn't the right person to start the brick and mortar because I wasn't the most knowledgeable person to do it. And so I had to take a step back and learn it and hire somebody to help me and do the right things as opposed to trying to do it all myself half-assed. And she got me this plaque, which I threw in the trash as soon as she gave it to me because she thought it was hilarious. It said, "You traded in your 9 to 5 for a 24/7."
Yep.
Yeah. And I looked at it and I said, I get it, but I can't look at this every day. And I dropped it right in the trash. She's like, I already knew you were going to do that. I didn't pay much for it. And I was like, thank goodness.
So it's not just a cheap plug for my YouTube channel, which is Wonderworld Comics, by the way. But that's why I started rebranding and doing the videos I do, because I want somebody like you or Sean that's thinking about going into this to understand even the stupidest, minorest little aspect is important when you go put this forward. I did a video about you can open a store for less than 20K. And it's really simple. But part of that is just put 15,000 in a bank account and never touch it except for once a month when you have to pay your rent. So you have your rent paid for the next year. Everything else besides that is semantics. It's little things.
Yeah.
I wish my rents were that cheap.
I was about to say, yeah, where's that?
You're right, though. You're saying.
All right.
Here's
for 3,000 square feet.
Go ahead, Emmett. Go ahead.
I originally 11 years ago I got my spot for $900 for 3,000 square feet. And,
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's out there if you look, guys. It's out there. Even if you have to start a flea market booth at $1,200 a month.
I
Don't overspend.
Yeah, I just crossed 1,700 for the 3,000 square feet. So just a little over 50 cents a square foot.
Yep, started at a flea market booth. $150. Had to replace the cage to close every day.
Yeah.
It's a journey, I'll tell you that. And we're lucky to any given week. I always say any given week, all of this can go away.
Yeah.
I mean, it would take more than a week.
Let's talk about that real quick because there is, that this we talked about at the beginning of the show, the variant game and how it's changing. And there's a lot of people that their comic book business was built upon the retailer exclusive game, and that's it, right? Playing the I'm gonna get an exclusive for this book. I'm gonna get all the ratios for this book. I'm gonna sell those. That's what I'm selling. I'm selling ratios and the variants, and that's how they play their game. And then they'll build around that, and to go into maybe buying collections or selling online for FOC. A lot of people do that. That makes it's a nice little change. But now people are getting tired of too many covers. It's become something that we cannot ignore anymore. For a long time, we knew it was coming. We knew that wave was going to hit. We just didn't know when, and I feel like it's starting to happen. And the title of the show is "Death by 1,000 Covers," and I feel like we're there. And there's multiple reasons that we got there. One of them I want to talk about is cost. Okay, and Sean, you brought this up in the beginning. That's what your post was about. It was a big about cost and how much it costs to do these variants.
I want to share something with everybody tonight.
Yeah.
And just to back up what Sean said, Jesse, do you remember the days of $1 variants from Marvel?
Yeah, definitely.
There were times when Marvel, if they needed to pump their numbers, would contact the retailer and go, "Hey, are you interested in doing a variant?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I was thinking about passing on that one." They're like, "Look, if you do 3,000, You're going to qualify for the 1 in 1,000 or the 1 in 500. We'll sell them to you for $1 a piece.
Yep.
Okay. And I remember there was a period of time before I stopped doing variants where I was like, hey, you got any $1 variants? And they're like, oh, no, we don't. We charge 50 plus now, 50% plus.
Yep.
And I'm like, you're kidding me, right? At 3,000 units? Yeah, no, I'll pass. Thanks.
Yep. There was a time, without me divulging who, would call me up and say, hey, can we do a 500 piece variant, put your logo on it? And they would drop ship that logo just to pad their numbers.
Yep.
That was early 2010, 2011, 2012. Yep. Those days are gone. But anyways, back to the question.
So,
well, and no, but sorry, but you know, I absolutely respect that when these guys do these new variants and all these added costs that I didn't know, Sean, until Sean just mentioned these were not a thing that I ever did, and I did tons of variants. Jesse did more than I did, but none of these extra costs were ever factored in. And I think it might be a different level of variant that you guys are doing, because those are variants you're chasing, and I think Jesse and I were offered rather than chase.
Right.
No, we would chase the shit out of them. I mean, everyone's trying to. The chat just said it perfectly. Like Funhouse talking about Bird City's 8 Billion Genies variant, and everyone tries to hit this perfect formula. You want the hot artist on the hot title with an event like a convention exclusive with a hot image, a great cover with a great concept. And if those things can align, the planets can align, and you can advertise that out there, that's a hit cover. And I got to tell you, those are fewer and farther between than people think. They're
especially
very
nowadays.
few.
Well, because here's the thing though, that's spaghetti being thrown at the wall. Everybody sees Ant hit 8 billion genies, and then all of a sudden, million other people are like, "Oh, I'll do."
Want to do the same thing.
Yeah, I'll do an 8-bit, but I'll do it with this character instead on this book.
Oh, McClay knows that was a huge war, and it's happening right now with Pop Kill. We crushed those Pop Kills, and people are doing number ones again. We're on number 4. You know, they're circling back through. But I'll be honest with you guys, that doesn't bug me so much. It's competition, and I mean competition. I think Sean and maybe you guys will buy into this. Like when I have something to compete against, like a target, I work harder. I don't know if that's just a me thing. I don't mind it, because even if there's 80 exclusives on one cover, as long as mine's in the top 10, I can give a shit however many other people wasted their money. And it's the same for buyers. Like, yeah, okay, there's 50 of them. Buy the ones you like and let them waste their money. It's too accessible, I guess, because that's why we have so many covers. You've got, you know, D-list, with all respect, let's just call them D-list, ABCD list retailers on a scale of how big they are. And they've got $2,000 in their pocket. They find a small indie publisher, and before you know it, we got 1 million exclusives, and it's kind of a part of it. It's not fun, and it's kind of a pain in the ass, but you know, it's the reality right now. There's no vetting anymore. You got money in your pocket, they don't give a shit. You got a logo, let's do it. That's what a lot of these guys are doing.
Yeah.
Does a brand, so here's the question, does a brand sell exclusives? Can a brand sell with just its brand itself before you even put out the cover?
You mean like
100%?
You mean like a brand being like?
So Comic Elite is, if I'm a Comic Elite fan, what's your percentage of sales on that?
I'd say, yeah. I mean, everyone has their loyal buyers. When you say KRS, you instantly think of like Natalie Sanders or some of these artists that are, you know, you think of, you know, these other guys. You think of Will Jack, you think of Comic Ninja, whoever's doing that stuff, you know. So certain brands will definitely have their brand loyalty. You know, I mean, someone in the chat just said I spent a ton of money on Comics Elite's Shakari variants over the years. Like, you know, so a brand can definitely help. And that's true across the board. An artist is a brand. That helps. You know,
but
Marvel.
Sean, I mean, I'm sure, and once again, no offense, Comics Elite, I've seen the name, I've heard the name, we've had you on the show, you've said the name several times, but at a certain point, I couldn't tell you the difference between Comics Elite, Unknown Comics, Tate's, or you know, a lot of these names.
Yeah. No,
you
you're right. They all tend to blend together after a while. You're
right.
like,
The more of those brands that get saturated across a comic convention, the more it
Mhm.
dissipates.
Well, you know what's funny is we used to say way back when, man, us retailers had the biggest freaking egos you can imagine, man. There was such a fight between whose logo is gone on the back of that cover. My logo is going to be on the back. I'm not going to sell that variant. His logo's on the back. I don't want my logo. They can only fit 2 logos on the back. Well, I'm not going to buy into it. I'll never sell a logo with his on. Now I have a saying. I've been saying this for years. I don't care what's on the back cover as long as someone will give me $14.99 for that book. I don't.
But that's a testament to your selling ability, because I'm the same way. If somebody's like, "Oh, they're fighting," I don't give a shit. I'm gonna sell the hell out of whatever I'm putting out anyway.
Mhm.
It's a mindset. It's a
So-
whole.
They
But
would
it's
sell-
a-
okay.
it's a part of
Have
the
you seen
problem.
the merge logos where there's 3 stores on it and they come up with their own logo?
I tried one of those once. It was really corny. I didn't care for it.
I had a bunch of them, man. I had a bunch of them. And eventually you're just like, I don't give a shit. Just leave it blank on the back. Like, I don't even
Serious.
care. Like, just give me a great cover, please.
Yeah.
And when I say that, now I make sure the back of my covers have tons of detail on them for the print runs because it's so detailed. But that's my own publishing stuff. That's different.
I want to talk about cost again. We kind of broke down cost a little bit in the beginning, Sean, but I want to break it down some more. Okay, let's talk about first of all artist fees.
Well, Brian, before that, can we ask? So, Sean, what's the average print run that you produce? We have to talk about what level we're talking about.
Sure. So almost across the board, Marvel and DC for years and years and years has been 3,000 trade dress as the starter.
Yep.
Got to do 3,000 trade dress. Once you do 3,000 trade dress, then you can do 1,000 virgins. DC would go 3,000 trade dress, then you can do 1,500 minimal, then you can do 1,000 virgins. Since then, they've made some adjustments. You can do 1,000 DC trade dresses, but you're paying more for them. A lot more. It's still a $9,000 project. Basically, you can get a 1,000 foils, but that's still a $7,000 to $9,000 project. So the cost is there. It's still at least.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Before we start adding the bonuses, let's talk about what.
So for DC or Marvel, you're about 9,000 for DC or Marvel.
Just to start, just to get the ball rolling.
Okay.
Just to get the ball. And Anthony, if anything I say is old school or out of date, please let me know.
No, you're all current.
Now, so I'll spill a little bit of tea here too. So Marvel pays the artist, and so does DC. Period. You don't have to deal with that. They pay with them.
Yeah, but they don't pay them nearly as much as
Exactly.
anybody else would think.
No way. They don't pay him shit. And
I know some Marvel artists that get 600 a cover, and I know other Marvel artists that get 1,200, and I know some that get way more.
Yeah, those are elite level. Your typical dude's getting
Scotty
6
Young,
to 9-ish if you're lucky.
JTC.
Yeah. So now, and you're also not. There's rules. You're not supposed to talk to the artist, right?
Stupid rule.
Yeah.
Everybody talks to the fucking artist. I'll tell you that right now. And we've caught him in so many lies, especially Marvel. They're the worst. You would be like, I would message somebody like, hey, man, are you free for coverage? They're like, yeah, I ain't got nothing going on. You message Marvel, hey, I want to get this guy on the cover. Oh, he's not available.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
We
We hear that a lot. We hear that a ton.
And then you can't call him on it because they'll be like, oh, you're talking to him. You're banned.
Yeah, they'll cut you off.
Yep.
Yeah, but everyone does. And then they'll send the art over to you first. And then you're like, okay, can you change this? But don't tell them. And then, okay, when it comes in, I'll request. I already sent it to DC. Okay, I'll request this change. See if you can do this. So there's always, and everyone does it as long as.
It's like unwritten rules of baseball. Like the rules are there, but we know how to play around them. Like I have this artist this is just funny to me. We always send DC a cover that we know they're going to kick back and say no on first. So then when we send them what we want, they're more apt to say yes.
Yeah.
It's a stupid game.
Tons of ways. I've had artists that they came back and said, DC literally told us one time, she's too pretty, make her less pretty. Another time, of course, that's always the boobs are too big, and then they reduce them, and then they just send the final file, make them bigger again. Like there's all kinds of little tricks that they do, but that's to start. Now there's some artists out there that retailers will pay them on the side. So
exactly, they'll get
an artist can say, no, I don't want to do a cover. Oh, who's this cover for? It's for Comics Elite. Nope, don't want to do it. that's why, like, if I requested David Nakayama right now for Marvel cover, I probably would be told no, because he's only doing stuff for Unknown Comics.
Yep.
Right. Because he's at all their booths and blah, blah, blah. And there's
It's
deals
also
on the
against their
side
rules
and
technically, but they do it anyway.
Yeah,
Like he shouldn't be contracted to any particular retailer.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they may not have, and again, I mean, money talks, man. It's all about, to Darren's credit from Unknown Comics, he's done more exclusives than any of us put together and combined. Good for him, man. He's some of the best covers that have probably ever been done have come out of Unknown Comics camp.
Yep.
Like he's done great, but we all have our misses, but that's just how it goes. So you're not supposed to work deals on the side, but I know tons of guys that are like, oh yeah, if you do this cover with me, I'll give you an extra $1,000, or I'll give you a percentage of the sales, or I'll have you at my booth. And then that's when all the crack deals get worked out on the side. You know? And then I know some of the artists that they got super greedy really fast. Like, again, like I was saying, our retailers are almost enemies sometimes. If you make a post that says like, oh, we sold out, it's like, did you sell? Like, no one sells out of 3,000 covers. I'll tell you right now, nobody sells out of 3,000 covers. That's a crap ton of covers. So, and they start crunching numbers, 3,000 times $15, and then $30 for a virgin. Like, these guys made $80,000. Like, I want some of that cash. And you're like, no, man, I didn't make that much money. Like, why'd you say they were sold out? Because you still have cases of these things in storage.
Yes.
What are you gonna do? Throw them in the dumpster? No. And then there's retailers do all the shady stuff. They sold out on the website in 1 minute. No, you fucking didn't. Like, you just put quantity of 4 up, and then you have them on a secret eBay site that's selling them. Like, there's all kinds of shady, weird shit retailers do, but we're our worst enemies,
And because of this big price at the big two at Marvel and DC, this $10,000 clip, right? If you're gonna do it, it started this thing happening with some of the smaller publishers, where the smaller publishers would say, "Hey, we'll do 250 copies, we'll do 500 copies," and you start having these companies pop up, where you can now start doing print runs of 50 or 100. There's printers out there that will print one book if you ask them,
Well, that's the difference between digital and offset. So if you do a variant with any Merc stuff, I'm going to let you print whatever you want. I don't care. You can do 1, you can do 1,000. I don't care. It's going to be the same cost as $3.50. That's what it costs to print it. I happen to own the printing company, so my printing company makes money from it. I'm happy with that. I don't need anything off the top. You're advertising my product for free. Thank you. You want to do a 1 of 1? I don't give a shit, man. Good for you, right?
Yeah.
I don't care. That's digital printing, like Tidal Wave digital printing, that kind of stuff, right? The offset printers, Dynamite, for example, they want big numbers because the more they can print, the cheaper that printing is going to be. They got to hit those big numbers to get their printing for like 25, 30, 40, 50 cents a copy. That's why you'll see them
10 to 10
put
covers.
minimums out there of 500, 1,000, whatever that may be. Because I just had a retailer call me up and they're like, "Hey, we're offering free exclusives. Like, we'll give you free, totally free." I was like, "Shit, okay." Like, we're offering to certain retailers. We want people to have good reputations and bigger names, blah blah blah, and we'll give it to you for free. So we're trying to get our print numbers up there. We're getting free advertising, and I'm like, "This is the way. That's genius. Like, smart. Good for you, man." So it's all about getting that print number up high so they can get them for less at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So that's why Marvel is saying, oh, plus Marvel just got greedy. Now, but Brian, back to your point about the cost, that's why you see these retailers, they're becoming sub-distributors for Marvel and DC.
Yes.
That's exactly what they are.
Mm-hmm.
So they're sharing it between 6 stores, 7 stores. So now one person's getting the shipment in, they're breaking it out, they're sending it out to all their partners, they're collecting the money, they're paying the bill. They're a sub-distributor of those exclusives.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they are.
And then that brings in a bunch of other problems, like who's going to sell it first? When do you put it out there? Are you selling to the same customers? Like,
that's a nightmare. I've had many wholesale groups out there, many over the years, and they all dissolve because, like, I can get into all the nuances, but like you just said, okay, here's the rules for eBay. You can post it at this time. You can't offer free shipping. You can't offer a group discount. You have to have the same price. You can't have best offer accepted. There's all these rules out there. And then there's always one dude that posted a day earlier, one guy that is wholesaling on the side because he can't sell his copies. Or there's always one dude that's doing something shady it's not supposed to. Or let's say we do a cover for, let's say the 6 of us are in a group, and then, you know, I'm the guy in charge of the group, and then I do a cover, nobody likes it, and everyone's like, oh, I'm going to pass on that one. And I'm like, you can't pass. I can't eat this whole print run.
Dennis, she ever heard that before?
Yeah,
don't even bring it up, Jesse. Don't even. You know how much shit I took. Okay, so I'm telling the story now. Jesse brought it up. I'm telling the story.
Don't be that guy, Dennis.
We came up with a great variant. It was a big, beautiful variant. It was going to be huge. We got 10 stores to all buy an equal portion of it, 300 copies each. And then Jesse's partner fucked us all by making the black and white version of it limited to 1,500 off the back of our 3,000 and didn't offer it to any of us. Rest in peace, but he was a piece of shit. And it made our variant worthless. Now, he had 300 of the color, and he could bundle it with the 1,500 of the black and white, and he made out like a bandit, and we all got effed.
Yeah, but you forgot to mention the whole point that 6 stores didn't pay for their comics. So
who were the 6 stores that didn't pay?
Look,
you never told me that. Huh?
No, it's just
look
me,
on the back.
you, and Celestial Comics.
No, George and Fun for All both paid.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's another part of it. Now
that all came through. That all went through Marvel because they split that invoice. And guess what? Right after that,
they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore because of the people who said, "I'm not paying for this" because the certain person effed me on it. And yeah,
I've never had. I know retailers that have had a 6-figure diamond bill. I've never had one. I've been close. I think I've had 76,000.
Well, and that's the thing. You know, I was going to bring this up, Sean. I don't think any of you young bucks down there know the. You make these variants months out and weeks out. They're supposed to be separated by 2 or 3 weeks, and then an FOC gets pushed, and something gets pushed up, and all of a sudden the variants that you were supposed to have 3 or 4 weeks apart all show up on the same day, and it's triple what you thought it was supposed
that's
to be.
happened many times.
Yeah.
Many times.
You know what's funny is I got a good story too. Sean, do you remember?
Which one?
You were talking about like the rules of the retailer exclusive partnerships. You probably don't remember this, but when I was super duper green, I was in one of your groups.
Oh yeah,
and,
which one?
It was one of the big ones when we were doing all the DC deceased covers.
Yes.
And we had I'm terrible with messages anyway, so it's true to this day. But you sent out like that rule spreadsheet that was really, really well done, but you got the date wrong on it and you sent a revision. I never saw it. So I posted it on Instagram and the fucking people in this group came from my head.
Bro,
and Sean calls me. Do you remember this? You called me and you're like, what the fuck are you freaking out and all this stuff? And I was like, bro, my bad. I messed up. And I think you just heard it in my voice. You're like, hey, relax, dude. It's all good. You really didn't mean to do it. I'm like, no. And you're like, all right. Cause I was like shaking, like, dude, I had people sending me hate texts.
Yeah.
And Sean, I think after I said it, you kind of calmed down right away. And you're like, all right, dude, I'm hearing it in your voice. You didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
Pull it down for me. It's going to be all right. Let me talk the group down. And sure enough, you went into the text and you're like, all right, guys, he's not an asshole. It was an accident. and I fixed it up right away. And I was like, dude, I'll even launch late. I don't care, whatever. And you hooked me up. But it's like that, dude. They go nuts. And it was a simple mistake. I was doing a different job.
But here's the thing. I got to say this, and it's no slight to anybody who falls into this category. The variant game is a cherry on top for a retailer that's making his bag already, doing all the other stuff. And of course, now Emmett and Jesse are both gone while I'm talking about them. But I think that's the cart before the horse that a lot of these up and comers don't get. They have put themselves in this rob Peter to pay Paul world. I mean, I had money in the bank when it was time to pay one of these. Yeah, maybe they pushed them too close to each other and I had a little less money than I was supposed to, but you have to be able to make the money happen. And I think that's where who was the one that got auctioned off, Brian, where they just had all of his boxes?
Frankie's.
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
that's the
Frankie's.
comic industry in itself for retailers for the longest time. I mean, brick and mortar shops have lived off of, okay, this week's books are going to be paid by next week's pre-orders or whatever. You're always a week out, and you're doing that, and that has been what the comic retailer industry has been built off of. And it causes problems because let's talk about it. I mean, there was a lot of retailers who were doing tons of exclusive variants, and I guess through Diamond because a lot of these retailers end up owning
let's
money.
Let's start with the big boy, Hastings. Hastings had a business model, and I think it's important to note because AdPop is the one that bought Hastings and was playing with this business model for a while until it imploded. But Hastings had 5 variants a week sometimes.
Well, don't forget who worked for Hastings before they went under.
Well, yeah, but who owned Hastings and who worked for Hastings?
Well, who was in charge of the variant covers at Hastings?
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. I'm not going to talk about him because he's not on the show.
Okay, same.
But we're trying to get him on the show so he can talk to us about all of that. Plus, and
good luck.
Yeah.
No, I've been talking to him for a while, dude.
I know him very well.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be shocked if he. I hope he does.
I'm shocked that you're coming on the show after I called you a bottom feeder 59 episodes ago.
When someone, I'll leave it at that. Go ahead.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, move on.
Yeah.
Next.
I'm a bottom feeder. You ever see how big a catfish gets?
Yeah.
Fucking A, man.
Yeah, same thing with Atomic Comics. Atomic Comics did the same thing. You can go through these companies that mass produced exclusives to get to the next week or get through their month.
Yep.
And I think with the way the structure is, it's a little bit different now. If you're with Lunar or Penguin, that's not going to happen. But I think a lot of people through Diamond to this day owes for exclusives they did 2 years ago.
Well, and that's the number that I still want to come out of this bankruptcy. It was 33 million, of which 11 million were 90 days. That means 22 people were write-offs prior to that 90 day, but there was 11 million floating from just 90 days. And that was in January.
Right.
How many people were floated between that period and the time they were cut off? And whatever. We could be in the 40 million range for retailers that owe Diamond money right now.
So I'm lost. I'm sorry. Where are we trying to get with this conversation? Because we're talking about retailers.
Well,
and
we're all
money,
over the place right now. What we're trying to get is trying to talk about variants and how variants are dying.
Yeah,
so back to the cost of things.
Yeah, don't hold up the lightning rod, Anthony. If I were you.
Yeah.
Right.
You got the cost $9,000. Then you got to pay your artist. Now let's talk about paying artists nowadays, right? Because that's totally changed because the artist has been able to become a retailer themselves. All right. There's a lot of artists we talked about earlier that they go to Marvel or DC. They're only being paid $600 to do their covers over there, and maybe their regular cover cost is $1,200. So, they're trying to make that up on the back end, whether they're telling that, like you said, Sean and Anthony and everybody here, that the Marvel says you can't talk to the artist, but it happens. Maybe that artist will then say, hey, you got to give me the offset for my cover cost now. They're only paying me $600. You got to add $500 onto that. So,
and here's my problem with this model, because you're right. This is happening. I can't stand this whole artist subjective. So these guys, and I get it, I have not an artistic bone in my body. Couldn't draw you something right now. Not even something simple that I may have worked on for years. So not to take away from them, but these guys are starting to get to the point where they think they're worth more than they are. It all comes down to sellability for me.
No, well,
I know I'm going to sell out.
Don't say it like that, please.
What do you mean?
They're asking the price. You can always negotiate. They're asking the price that they feel they're worth. And if you don't use them, then they're not worth that amount.
Well,
Right, but I'm talking on a broad scale, not on
more than what they're worth.
I'm
Yes.
sorry.
What?
I mean, in his opinion, they're asking more than what they're worth.
Well, I understand that, but you're the talentless one talking to the talent, and if the talent sets their page rate, that's their page rate that they want to do it. Don't insult them for setting the rate that they want.
You're misunderstanding. I'm not talking about any specific. I'm talking on a broad scale. Pretend there's no artist in mind. I'm just talking X and Y, Z. And meet this guy. His stuff's cool, and he's like, I need $1,000. If I can't sell to cover the cost, he's not worth $1,000, no matter how good he is.
Exactly.
Is what I'm getting at. Not as particular. I think artists are
And he's
fantastic. I
asking
work
for
with
more
them all
than
the
what he's worth.
time. But
It's also
business
what
is not
book you're putting it
feelings.
on.
Oh, absolutely. It's got to hit. And this is the problem right here. It's not about feelings. It's about money in business. Can I sell it? Can't I sell it? Are you worth the money? Is it going to work out? These are all things you have to take into account before you go dump $10,000 on a DC book or 20 if you're going to do 2 covers on a Marvel.
And by the way, people don't want to pay $40 a book anymore. $20 is
Hell
the
no.
sweet spot. People do not want to pay a big money for books anymore. They'll pass on it. So even if you say, okay, I'll raise the price on this book to pay for the extra cost for the art, you might not be able to sell it because people don't want to pay that much for a book anymore.
Or okay, so let's bring the 800-pound gorilla into it. Or if they rip the art off, nobody wants to touch the book with a 10-foot pole.
You
Well, yeah,
got
if they
it.
have a bad reputation, for sure.
Yeah.
If they have a bad rep, like, so and it also depends on, like you said it. Emmett said it perfectly. It depends on what you're putting the art on. Also, like for example, I was part of a group that did a foil Zerdy exclusive. It was a foil virgin version of the weekly book. It completely bombed in every sense of the word. I mean, bombed. Because looking back at it, I'm talking to the guy that set it up too, and I'm like what? Shame on me for not knowing it was a weekly book. That's what I get for not doing FOC, right? But which we started again, by the way. Anyway, how why would somebody pay $30 for a foil when they can get that same image with trade dress on it for $5? If you really want that book,
Great
just
point.
pay $5 for it.
Great fucking
point.
point.
What makes that book? When I tell an artist or a retailer or somebody, I say, yeah, that's a cool image, but is it an image where an artist will tell me sometimes, hey, this cover blew up on social media. Everybody loved it and liked it. You should use it as a cover. I'm like, likes don't turn into dollars. It costs nothing to hit that like button. It hits nothing to hit that heart button. It costs nothing for someone to say, that's the great cover, man. Everybody loved it online. Who's everybody? Was it 4 people that said they loved it and one of them was your mom? Like, that doesn't mean everybody loved it. That's 4 people said they loved it. And those 4 people aren't going to go to my website and pay $14.99 for that book. So,
well, I think Three Rivers has a really good comment in the chat. If you could pull that one up, Brian.
Which one?
When you're thinking about doing a variant, is there any thought that will this book retain value for the customers a year from now?
Absolutely. I know Anthony does this, and I think I do the same thing. So
yeah, but be honest.
I am.
No. Let me finish the sentence.
Oh, sorry.
but be honest. You out of how many do that?
Well, so this has been my problem with. I guess I can go back in history here. So this is one of the reasons why I started Merc Publishing up, is because I believe in the collectibility of comics. That's why I love collecting comics. I want them to retain their value, right? So I know of a certain retailer who swears up and down, he says, I will never reduce the price of my books ever, except for maybe a couple sales during the year for 2 days, Black Friday, maybe Memorial Day,
right?
Buy one, get one 50% off. He said, I would rather die with a warehouse full of comics than reduce the price on them. And I say, okay, I get that mentality. I also get the mentality of Unknown Comics, talking to Darren. I've had many conversations with him about theory of retail. And with his Hastings background, he just says, look, it's retail. You guys got to understand retail, right? He operates his business like it's the J.C. Penney's of comics, really. Like next one. I never believed in that. I shared comics with Darren a long time ago when I was first getting started. and we stopped sharing comics together because we just didn't agree with how each other did business. I don't want to do instantly on the day of release, buy one get one half off, or buy two get one free, or whatever that is, because you're instantly devaluing that comic. So I believe in announcing the print run of the books. He's a huge advocate of don't announce the print runs of the books. He never announces the print runs of the books. I love announcing the print runs of the books. You have to announce the print runs of the books, in my opinion. You know, if I'm going to print an extra, if I think this cover is super good and I'm going to do 1,500 versions, I should tell my customers that. That's integrity to me, right?
Yep.
You know, on the flip side, and most times the print runs are less anyway, because 20% of everything's damaged, and you don't report later on, I just destroyed 4 more of these, so this is now
I got to talk about that real quick, the damage part, because listen, here's the crazy part about all this, you guys. Like, me doing this show, talking about, you know, how variant covers are on the decline. Guess which dummy just did his very first variant cover, right? So I do my very first variant cover. I put them up on my website. I create a website. I sell a bunch of the 1 in 20s. I go to the 1 in 20s in the cases, and I go to pull them out, and they're damaged. I'm thinking to myself, I've never dealt with that. And people don't realize that damages are a big part of this game, and it can really hurt you know, your profit in this in the end too. So they don't realize.
World, sir.
Another thing is that some people want to think that the comics are a commodity, and they're really a consumable, which become a collectible. So I have customers that come in and will not let me give them a bag and a board.
That is so damn smart what you just said, man. You kind of just blew my mind with that, because I was just thinking the way to say it, like the consumer will decide if it's collectible or not.
Yep, correct.
Where people get confused is golden age keys can be a commodity, right? Those are a different universe. So people mix up comics. Not all comics are created equal, you know, just like cars, an old vintage collectible car.
Just like all things are not created equal. Cards, cars, comics, whatever it is, you know.
Now,
if I bury you in the sand long enough, Dr. Jones, maybe you'll even be an antique.
And you know, a lot of people are saying, like in the chat too, like $40 kind of scares people away. But it also depends on, again, back to what Emmett said about, depends what you put it on, right? So if I put a Shakari cover on one of my titles, I can sell a box set of 4 books for $120, and we're selling 150 of them. And we'll sell out of the, you know, sometimes the full naughty is limited to 300. Again, I spread them out amongst my sales channels, and by the time they filter down through the 4 whatnots, eBay's, wholesalers, websites, they're sold out. You know, so if you're spreading them around enough and they're limited and they retain their value, and I don't do all this other weird shit where I go back and I'll reprint something like, you know, a vault edition like people do, but I won't just re-release it or put a gold cover on it a month later and redo it, or also the weird shit, or do a holographic spot foil.
Do you guys think that
that
is one of the main reasons
for you? Like, that's a niche market for you.
Yes.
If we all did that, it would all suck.
Right? Well, I think that's one of the reasons that people are turning their nose to variants right now, because it's become so saturated. You know, everything's an homage variant, or everything is a version of, like you guys were talking about, of the you know, just no trade. Look at what DC and Marvel is doing with their ratio variants. Their 1 in 100s are just a version of the A cover or the B cover. You know.
Can I tell a real quick historical story about this?
No, but you're going to.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just fucking with you.
Playmates Toys was making Star Trek figures in the early 90s, right when the adult collector market began.
The card tapestry.
And they made these little serial numbers on the feet. So all the collectors knew how many people were buying these. There was 200, 300, 400,000 of every one of these figures. There was probably 200,000 collectors at that time of this toy. And then some idiot got the idea to make a limited edition chase figure called Tapestry Picard. Let's make 1,701 of them to commemorate the number of the Enterprise. And I talked to the Playmates guys after this. They literally lost 150,000 collectors overnight because all of those people knew they would never be able to own every one of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of completionists. There's a guy in the chat talking about that too.
20 or 30,000 people still stayed on because the print runs after that, all those little serial numbers, they never went over 50,000 for any of the production numbers that happened after that. And that's why I think this variant implosion is happening. Sure, the first 5 Spider-Man 300 homages, you could buy the Todd, you could buy the original 300, you could buy the Todd homage to himself, you buy a couple others, but after 5, if you miss the 6th one, you're out. You don't need the other.
So when you look across at other industries, like you mentioned the toy industry, right?
Yep.
When you look across, here's what I'm constantly talking to people about and kind of debating something that we could do in the comic industry to replicate success in other areas, right? So specifically the card market. Why will people buy 4 cases of Magic the Gathering to try to get the mythic rares, right? Why will people buy
because they're gamblers?
Cases and what's that? I'm sorry.
Because they're gamblers.
Yeah, well,
they would be if there wasn't this stuff, they would be at the
but Emmett, some of those cards are like the most playable cards.
Yes,
people
there's
want
functionality to it, and you can play
in Magic. It's playable, but in Pokemon, it's not.
It's
right,
yes,
exactly.
Playable. And then so Magic it is. Pokemon may not be. There's all the card games. Look at sports cards, for Christ's sakes. I mean,
but the sports cards, you know what's crazy about that, Sean? The sports card industry is going through the same thing that the comic industry is going through with variants. In the sports card industry, they started doing this thing where they printed so many different colorways, and one of 150s were pinks, one of 50s were blue, one of 25s were orange, one of 5s were gold. They printed so many that it just got too ridiculous. And then they started doing negative numbers. One of -5 is this. It's so ridiculous that it makes those things not special anymore. And that's what's happening in the variant industry. That's what's happening in the world. I think with the variant comic world is that there's so many of them. You guys are getting ready to go. Some of you guys are getting ready to go to Dallas. Dallas is going to be crazy with the amount of variants that are going to be there. Okay,
it is. Dallas is quickly becoming a humongous con.
Yes.
But then again, look at these things, right? Like,
yes,
look how many of these sold for. Was it 400,000?
But those were fun, Sean.
The right thing.
Those were 200,000 of that bag.
Okay, and look at, for another example, look at the numbers that Nikki hit with Thundercats. With all the variants and exclusives. Now, good for him, but how many of those
are sitting in warehouses?
Let me ask you guys this. Can your exclusive have long-term legs, or does it always have to sell out for you?
No. It can definitely. I call them forever covers.
Okay.
There's some forever covers out there. Anthony knows what I'm talking about. You guys all do. Whenever you find a collection or you happen to stumble across a long box somewhere, you look through a book, you're always going to pick up, X-Men 211 or some cover, a Campbell cover. You're going to grab it, even if it's not the super desirable.
Spider-Man 1, McFarlane Spider-Man 1. It's one of the most printed comics in the world. And it's always going to sell.
A few exclusives like that. Whenever I take them out, throw them up on whatnot, they're always going to sell. But on the flip side of that, you have the ones that you can't give those fucking things away. You try to give them to somebody, they get mad at you. Yep. Like, I don't want that. I don't want to pay shipping on it. Like, it's free, bro. It's free. It raised my shipping cost. Like,
how important is it to you guys to for your customers to feel like that they purchased something like we talked about the collectible value, but that value isn't going to go down in 2 weeks? Because I feel like that's the biggest problem with, like you guys talked about doing sales and changing the price after a couple weeks, is that you just sold those to your best customers who always buy first from you for $50, and then some of the customers that waited are getting it, 2 months down the line for $25.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
one of the
that's
biggest
why
reason I don't do
people,
them.
and again, this is again theory of comics and sales, right? So I try to, we're starting to try to do exclusives again. We got a group of 12 retailers. We're trying to do some exclusives. We're pricing the trade dresses at $10, like, because it's 3,000.
Yes.
Like, is a 3,000 print run worth more than it's worth what somebody could pay for it? But I've been saying for ages, man, like I know some retailers, Anthony, remember this too. They were trying to get $25 for a trade dress at one point. And you're like, what are you doing? Because you're never going to be able to continue to sell that. And you got to keep in mind, I keep saying this, your other sales channels. I may be able to sell something for $15 on my website. I'll sell a few copies. I will never be able to sell that same book for $15 on Whatnot. If I can, I'll sell it for the day that I drop it, and that's it. The next time I put that up, it's got to be half price start or something like that. So you don't want to piss off all your people that paid full price for that book way back in the day, right? Where they're like, oh, I should have. But you may not piss them off. What'll happen is this: they'll just never buy from you again if they get really mad from you. Yeah. And then number two, what they'll do is you're training them to wait.
Yes, that's the problem.
And you're training them to wait, or they're just going to stop believing you. They're not going to believe you because everything is hype. Everything's going to be hype. The hype sellers, right? The let's go guys. Luckily, they're not there on Whatnot too much anymore. The let's go sellers. Let's go, baby. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go. What's up, chat? What up, chat? Let's go. Like, shut up. What are you doing?
The fanny pack bandolier.
Yeah, drive me insane. What up, chat? Let's
I have one of those fanny packs. What's wrong with it?
Yeah, do you wear it like a bandolier? Do you wear it like?
Of course. That's the only way to. No, I'm just joking. I got to get out of here, but I want to leave you guys with some final thoughts.
But hold on, Ant. We brought you on because we wanted to talk about the incident from this week. That was the whole. That's kind of the whole thing. So
I was not told that we're here specifically for an incident.
Well, no, we're here to talk about that business model. But I mean, this is kind of important, and I have questions for Anthony. We were beating around the bush, but I mean,
get into him. If you have questions, ask him before he leaves.
Yeah. So I mean, Anthony, you have this business model. I've heard you and Laura talk about your relationship with artists left and right. I've always respected that, but clearly you stepped in 3 piles of shit and you still somehow fell into them after you tried to get out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it last week on the show that we thought you all did the right thing by saying, hey, we're pulling this, blah, blah, blah. But then like the day after that, or 2 days after that, you announced that you're still going to get rid of this stuff.
Well, we had to, we paid for it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
but let's talk about that. Cause that's an important thing. So I'm going to set this table real quick for and everybody. Anthony and Laura, Bird City Comics, they did a special set of books for Dallas Comic-Con. The artist that did the art ended up, we'll say, swiping the art from other assets, and it caused a backlash, a little bit of a backlash for Bird City, but not much. I think Bird City, like we talked about, it did well by stopping it. But then there's this problem here where when this happens, they've already been printed. You have to pay for them. Then what happens? And that's a big fucking deal. How do you deal with that? And Anthony, how did you guys decide to deal with that?
I mean, all right, from the beginning, he was, we weren't aware of this. It was presented to us. I even showed a couple people, was like, hey, these are really cool. I had no idea they were box art. I don't pay that attention to Sideshow. I can't afford any of them, or whoever put it out. So we were really excited and we were pumped to have them. So we go through the regular process and, we send them to printing, we hold on to them so we can announce them in the right time for Dallas. And then lo and behold, then you get the flood of people saying, this is what it is. Oh, this is this is that. And I was like, shit. So of course we hit him up right away and told John, like, we can't work with you anymore, man. You just shit the bed on these and you kind of screwed us. Cause it was all
John Gallagher, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
But they were all paid for. It was a bad situation because at the same time, like, We just got done talking about cost. These things aren't cheap to print, especially in specialty printing. We had metals, we had foils, we had regulars, and it added up. So to do what we could, we ate the cost on one of them, which was still a nice chunk of cash. And to be honest, it killed the momentum on the other two. It wasn't great. We recouped some of it, but not a lot of it. It wasn't a sellout. And we're trying to make good of a terrible situation. At the end of the day,
but Ant, the problem is, and we discussed it last week, the terrible situation is you paid for stolen art.
Correct.
Whether it's copying a statue, that's still a sculptor who sculpted that. At the point at which this comes, the rubber meets the road, you're still bartering in stolen art. And as a person who has championed the artist as much as you and Laura have, I take umbrage with that. I don't know how you maintain that relationship with future artists that you're going to work with when you accepted and disseminated stolen art.
But is that on the retailer or is that on the publisher?
Well, I mean,
it's going to be a money thing too, though, because honestly, if I could have caught it,
there's no price you could put on integrity, Anth. There's no price.
I mean, let's just say, and this is a really hard way to, because you're kind of backing me in a corner here, which is awesome. We all have families to support and things like that. This isn't something I feel great about. But at the end of the day, I've got kids and a wife and a house and a mortgage and all these things. And I'm being honest, guys, it's shitty. It sucks. If you guys would like to just support us and pick it up, great. Knowing what it is, that's fantastic. And I tip my hat to you as a collector and a follower of Bird City. If you choose not to, because you don't care for it, and I completely understand why. But it's a no-win scenario, it really is. So
Yeah.
There's a win. A win is you eat it. You're a man.
That's not a win, though. That's not a win, Dennis.
How is that not a win?
Well,
Because he's still taking a hit. That's not a win in any way. If you're still losing money, you're taking a hit. That's not a win. I don't understand how that's a win. I mean,
right, but the publisher has a fiduciary responsibility to protect the retailer in situations like this. And for Anthony to have to eat it is my concern with that publisher.
Amen.
Well, right, but that
should have been a recall from the publisher.
Yes.
I haven't heard him speak anything about that. Have you contacted Darren and said, "What the fuck, dude"?
Yeah, we've already talked to Darren. We're going to talk to him some more. We have some meetings.
Okay, so if he pays for it, you could trash these and get this stench.
Yeah,
off
but you're
your
talking about
company
a lot
name.
of what ifs. You're trying to come to like end game.
It's a
off the top of your head
stench.
doesn't mean
It's
he's
going to
gonna
be a
agree with
stench
it.
that hangs around your company's neck. The company
Absolutely.
that feeds your children and pays your mortgage, it's a stench around your neck, Ant.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of mistakes that we will do as retailers. We've all done them, and we move on and we learn from them. That's the best I can do, is learn from my mistake.
Yeah.
Right,
I
but
can't
why?
ask for more than that.
But here's the thing: you're still going to put this stolen art out into the world.
Okay.
Swaggle had a great take.
What did he say?
I haven't seen it. What's Swag's take on it?
Why not just
he
sit
said,
up,
"Why not just hit up sideshow artists that did the statue, throw them a fee, and present that book as it is?"
That's not an option because the sideshow owns the art, not the artist.
Right.
The sideshow paid for that art. So
Right,
See,
and we're
that's
also
the problem.
talking about a piece of definite Lucasfilm art put on a book that is not any money going to Disney whatsoever. So we're still talking about stolen art on a stolen franchise.
Yeah. Mhm.
I don't think this looks good for you, Ant. I don't think it looks good for you and Laura. And I wanted to say that to you. It is not a good look.
I agree with you that it's not a good look. I've been saying that. I'm not denying it. I think the problem here is, and not even the problem. It's not a problem. It's just like, basically you're the cherry on top right now. I already felt super shitty about it. I feel shitty about the whole situation. Like I said, I'm trying to make light of a good situation. Again, Dennis, do you order from my website?
I don't think so.
Okay, then I'm.
So I'm not a customer, so I don't have any opinion about
I'm just saying
stolen art.
your an opinion holds very little weight unless you're participating in the buildup.
So Ant and Laura only care about their customers and don't care about the integrity of art in this community. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying
That's exactly what you're saying. Shut the fuck up if you don't buy my books.
No, that was specifically for you because I came on to talk about this and you're kind of coming at me, which is super weird. Yeah,
Listen,
I mean, you
it-
didn't think we were going to mention the biggest story of last week, Ant?
Yeah, but
I mean, I would-
no offense, Dennis. I don't think we're gonna come at him like that. You're kind of coming at him a little hard. I'll be
seriously,
honest here.
like,
You're
I
coming
don't
at him
love this
hard here.
situation. I'm flat out saying it.
Dennis.
It sucks. I feel terrible. I really
Yeah.
do.
So Anthony, let me ask
But not
you this.
terrible enough to get rid
Yeah.
of the book.
Yeah. So Anthony, let me ask you this: what did, if you tomorrow or next month, whenever this is all done, what have you learned? What is your best resolve in learning here?
Absolutely. Well, something new that I learned is you could put images through AI generators. My daughter actually showed me that. So a whole vetting process, coming up with a new process for artists. I had a commenter hit me up that said, you know, this sucks, man. Maybe ask for, and some artists already do this, but ask for like work as they go, progress. So things like that that I didn't have down, and that's what I'm saying. It's on me. It is. I'm the owner. I've taken the backlash for it. I literally came on a show to talk about exclusives, and you know, somehow the tides have turned to me, and I made a mistake and fucked up by not vetting properly.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault, Anthony.
It's as a business owner, it is my fault, and I've got to own it. But and at the same time, I'm also a person that's, you know, family owned, and I'm trying to make better of a shitty situation. And going forward, hopefully we don't have this problem, and just, you know, I'm going to learn from this big time. Believe me.
I think
So
that
let me throw a couple of things in here if I can. So, Anthony, you did the right thing, man. You owned up to your shit right away. That's awesome. You and your wife, you guys came out and said, "Hey, look, here's what we found," and you were totally upfront about it. Somebody, I think the onus falls on the publisher and the retailer, 100%. The publisher has to approve all covers that go on their book, 100%. So the publisher also owns a lot of this too. If a publisher is just, again, I don't know what happened, but if a publisher is just checking boxes saying, "Yep, go for it. Yep, sounds good. Yep, perfect. Do it," then shame on them. You learned some good lessons, man. Like, always ask for work in progress. AI is effing everywhere now.
Yep.
There's so many people out there throwing art through AI. They draw it. I'm using that word loosely, and then they throw it through an AI filter, and then they say it's theirs. I'm constantly asking for work in progress. I don't believe half the work in progress I see on Instagram for some of these AI people. You have to super protect yourself, because there are some shady grifter artists out there doing some terrible stuff. Now, there may be one, this is super gray area, man, right? But if art is altered to a certain degree, it can be considered new art, if that makes sense. Like, I know nobody likes to hear that or say that, because it is stealing something originally that happened. So remember when Matina was taking all those images and just redoing them, right? Well, I mean, you know, that was it stolen? Yes, he stole the base of that art 100%. He didn't come up with it on his own. He stole the poses. Some of that was horribly obvious, right? Horribly obvious, taking tons of shortcuts. It's never admirable for any artist to do that, period. Legally, if it's changed enough, it can be considered new art. So even in the AI world, if something is 100% AI generated, there is no copyright to it. Everybody owns it. But if you change that art, the part that you changed is now able to be copyrighted. So you can just take an AI picture, put a filter on the whole thing, and say it's all been changed, and now it's copyrightable. So technically, again, nobody likes to hear this, but and again, I don't know the legalese behind it, but it could be, if it's been altered enough. I don't know if that's the case for this cover. It looks pretty spot on, but if it's altered enough, it could be considered new art. Now, you can go down the path that Dennis is going between should you, would you, could you, morally, what's your obligation to the comic community as a whole. You know what, man? Here's what I would say. You made a mistake. You owned up to your mistake. First and foremost, that's the most important thing, right?
Amen.
You did the right thing within the community. I totally understand being out this damn money, and Darren the publisher should do something to help you in that regard. I also understand, like I said in the beginning of the show, all of this can go away any given week. We are on razor thin margins here, right? It's not like you're out there trying to buy a vacation home in Florida. You're trying to feed your family and your kids. and I'm sure you already pre-sold some orders. You got to fulfill those orders. You can't do refunds. Refunds are devastating. I would do what you did and just say, look, guys, this is what happened with this book. Knowing that if you still choose to buy this, then so be it. You did the right thing. You alerted your fans. You alerted the customers. You alerted everybody. Darren should do something to help you make this right. But you got to at least try to get back to zero. Maybe once you get back to zero, then be like, okay, the rest of these are going to be taken down and destroyed or something. Let Darren give you half refund. So take half your print run and trash it. So if you make 50%, whatever. But
or even getting the money back from John Gallagher for the cost of the art.
Yeah, we try to do a couple extra things too. Like I gave away the malls because that was the hardest one. We included in a pack. You got those two. We threw in the malls. We gave away much. I got packs of them that I'm sending out to streamers. They can do giveaways on their shows. Like we're gonna figure out a way to not. I mean, it's still a book, I guess. I don't know how people feel about that. I don't care for destroying books.
I destroy tons and tons of.
We're going to donate some to schools. we're going to donate some to schools because it's still a biography type interiors. We're doing what we can, and there's no right answer. I guess is really
no.
This comes down to.
The right answer is what you've already said and what you've done. The right answer is, hey, this happened. We're learning from it, and we're going to do our best in the future not to have it happen again. And how are we doing that? We're running our covers through reverse image searches. We're running our covers through AI filters. We're talking to our artists. Can I ask you guys something? Is it a norm to have contracts between artists and the retailers?
There's never a contract. It's almost always just a handshake and a
because that's what I've noticed is that 90% of the time. 90% of the time that the people that I talk to or that I've seen it done, there's never a contract.
No, I think I've only had a contract when I think only I've ever seen do a contract was honestly Brian Polito.
Yep.
With Shakari covers.
I mean, one of the most professional.
Yeah. Yeah, he wants your DNA, your last four digits.
I mean, but I'm sure that's come because he's learned the hard way over 20, 30, 40, 80 years. He's not that old.
Anthony, did this make you think about doing contracts between you and your artists for the future?
I don't know if contract is the word. Maybe just covering that in verbiage and making sure it's in text form, like
emails.
When I'm communicating something that I think is important, I try to text it instead of call it, so we have a paper trail.
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, it was an oversight on my part because you got to look at these ultra realistic type artists, maybe a little closer than I thought.
Yeah, man.
Because you look at somebody like Sveta, which we've worked with a lot recently. I mean, that's not AI. She's not copying an image. She's got a very unique style. So she
sends you pre-art sketches.
Yeah, and you get so caught up in the day-to-day, like when art rolls across my desk, I'm like, yeah, that looks great, approved, and then I move on to the million other things on my list that I'm trying to do.
So as I try to bring this back around, the chat, whatever. Ant, I've always loved and respected you and Laura. I love what you guys have done. I love the relationships you've had with the artists. I just think this is a total misstep for your entire brand. And as you elevate your brand into being a retail store where people can come and find you, that's not the model that you want. And also, the next time you go to an artist, by putting this out there, stolen art out there, you're limiting now yourself to the artists that will do this kind of stuff. You're going to lose a lot of that great relationship, those great bridges that you guys have built with all of your artists before this.
But that all depends on if this continues. If this doesn't continue and you don't see this as a thing that happens,
if I got in front of an artist that really had a problem with this and they allowed me a moment to talk to them, I'm sure that I could iterate that it was a complete screw up on our part, and hopefully that person can go, okay, well, they don't have the track history like you're saying. You're making it sound like we're gonna go out of business because of this one screw up, and
this isn't a death knell for you at all.
Right, it's not a death knell, and it's a strike. It doesn't feel good. It's gonna be a scar on our bodies. We all have them as people. We're gonna have them in business too.
It'll go away in 2 months with a clean record, brother.
Right.
Brought
Let
me
me
so
ask
much
you
shit.
one last question on my part.
Sure.
You still going to do another cover with that publisher in the future?
You know, that's in the air. We had some more lined up, but again, being completely transparent, we have to sit down and have a meeting with them because
Okay.
this was eye opening. I mean, it could have gone smooth, and who knows, and it didn't. And now we know what comes with it. And I think in order to be just to be responsible, it's gonna have we're gonna have a conversation just to see where we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, brother, go do what you got to do. Good on you for doing what you did, and we'll talk to you soon, man. Go feed your kids some dinner.
All right, later, fellas.
Later,
Good
brother.
job, man.
Let's talk about the publisher end, because that's where I want to get into now, because this is a thing with Tidal Wave, right? Let's just be honest here. Sean, I think the last time you were on here with Darren, and the conversation felt really good after that show. I'll be honest. I think all of us, me, Jesse, and Dennis, I don't think Emmett was there for that show, but we all felt after that show like, okay, I have a different feeling about Tidal Wave now. And the reason why is because Darren at that time, it felt like he was kind of like, I know that there's a tightrope here. We don't want to walk that tightrope every time because it's so hard to stay on that tightrope. We want to start pushing over to maybe coming up with our own IP, doing our own IP, getting away from this tightrope walk. And it didn't happen. They went the opposite way. And I would love to get your guys' take on that, especially you, Sean, because you've done a lot of work with Tidal Wave in the past.
Yeah, I was right there when everybody was talking about Tidal Wave stuff in the beginning because all the Taylor Swift stuff was blowing up. I did the big cover set of Taylor Swift. I had the Shakari covers, 2 different waves of it. And I mean, for a while there, I had tons of people messaging me about doing Tidal Wave covers. And, I was telling them, okay, here's the rules. You can do this, but you can't do that. It has to be, the more it looks like the celebrity, the better. You really need to use the celebrity. You can't use any copyrighted stuff. You can't use any lyrics or copyrighted images or characters, things like that. And then everybody was putting Taylor in the Dazzler outfits, but it was that was the gray area. It was sparkly. It didn't look just like Dazzler. There's that gray area we always try to kind of go through, right? And that was always a justification, was it's a celebrity comic, so it's legal. It's a biography. The Supreme Court said it's legal to do these. And, we're not using any copyrighted stuff. I very quickly realized that I started seeing a lot of stuff coming out that I was really kind of shocked at. I was like, I just told a bunch of people, no, like, you can't do this stuff. I'm telling my artists, no, you can't do this stuff. Tone this back, bring this down. You can't do this. You can't do that. But then I see these other artist covers and I'm like, how come these guys can do this, but no one else can do this, or this can't? And then I just really started stepping back away more and more from the Tidal Wave stuff. The more I saw
the ramp up,
just kind of I don't want to say double standard, but just I was told one thing and then another thing happened. And then there were just a couple other things that were going on here and there. And then I haven't done a Tidal Wave cover in a long time. And, now I see stuff coming out and I'm just like, my mouth is hanging open. I'm like, what? Like, how is this okay? Because those are copyrighted characters. Those are like, if there's a biography of Stan Lee, okay, have Stan Lee dressed as Captain America. Like, that's the line. But don't just do any Marvel character, I guess. Or if you're doing a Joker cover, I guess any Joker is okay to use now, or we could go on George Lucas. Biography of George Lucas. I guess we can do any Star Wars character, the copyrighted or not, can go on a George Lucas.
Well,
biography book.
and Sean, that's what I said last week. I saw that image of Darth Maul in my thread 3 or 4 times. I just scrolled through. Oh, cool. Marvel must have a new Darth Maul comic for the new Darth Maul, animated series they're going to do.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it until Brian brought it up in the pre-chat that we were going to be talking about that, and that was on a George Lucas comic. And I'm like, I mean, okay, maybe just paint George's face red and black and put some horns on him, but you can't just put Darth Maul on there.
And then like the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and these other things, and we're using all these. I'm sure Pikachu was copyrighted. I mean,
you think?
Yeah.
This is an example of what I'm talking about here. Now, this is the thing. I want to make sure to state this. I'm not putting this on the retailer, just like I'm not putting this on Bird City. I think that as of right now, we have to kind of give a little bit of grace there, but it's got to be put. It's got to be talked.
Batman and Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
I've never seen this.
Penguin, Batman, Harley Quinn. I mean, they're all on there, and this is for what is the mind of a psychotic Joker type character type book. That's the tightrope that they're walking. You talked about the what is it, the Stan Lee dressed as a Wolverine.
America.
They're doing that, but
That's
also
cool.
like this is to me isn't good either. You know what I mean?
Because here's the thing: Stan Lee has a company that has his image as their IP. Okay, Jack Kirby is a legend. You've now paid zero money to the estate of Jack or Stan. Now, true, paying money into a giant hole is a whole different thing, but nobody's making money except for the people making these. There's no. I mean, it's just a cash grab off of somebody else's likeness.
Well, let me ask you this: there's a company that says as long as the check clears, is that a problem right off the bat?
So real quick on that what Dennis just said real quick here. So if you just Google search real quick, biography of Stan Lee, there's a bunch of books out there, True Believer, A Marvelous Life. If an image is out there from the Associated Press, that image is public domain. It can be used. I'm sure these covers for these 2 books I just randomly see on Google. There's one. I'm sure that is a Associated Press, some type of a public domain image that they're using. I just watched a documentary with the wife, Taylor Swift having her music sold out from underneath her. All of the footage in there, it's all stuff from the news clips. It's all public domain news clips. So, this kind of stuff is okay, right? Like, this is what Darren has always said. It's totally legal to do this. And like I used to say, the more it looks like the celebrity, the better.
Yes.
As long as you're not taking an image that belongs to somebody else. Like if a photographer took an image that belongs to that photographer. However, and I would even be, the guy's dressed like Wolverine. Well, it's a book about Stan Lee. He created Wolverine. At least it's Stan Lee dressed as the guy. But that Batman one, in my opinion,
that's way over the line.
Like, go. There's other. I don't want to call any other stores out or anything, but I get all.
You've been doing that all night, Sean. Come on.
What's the substance of these biographies, though? Or at least they really good biographies? I mean, if it's just a way to sell a cover,
it is.
This is the thing that makes me sick.
This goes back to 60 episodes ago when we first started this. Sean, who was the other guy that was on with you in the?
Oh, I remember that guy. What's Inside Matters.
Yeah,
James
right.
Welch from Mad Love. Yeah.
So it all started there, and
by the way, who has switched to his own IP and doing his own IP now.
Absolutely,
right?
And that's what we said on that show, which is you're just doing these scrapbooks or sketchbooks But you're using that as the slippery slope to get you into copyright. And Sean, that was your argument against him.
Yeah.
And then that's when I brought up, well, this Taylor Swift stuff that you're doing is a slippery slope too. Cut to tonight. These 3 episodes fit so perfectly together.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's the gray area. Like I've said for years, man. Not we all, but people that do the variant covers like this, we all have operated in the gray area forever, going all the way back to the Do You Poo Harley Thin days when I was first getting started doing tons of those books and those covers. And, we all skirt the line. We talked about this a little bit before we started the show. We all remember Dennis talked about everybody getting arrested at a con, but I remember being at cons and having, oh, there's a representative from Marvel walk around, hide your prints, and everybody puts all their prints away and they're quickly ripping shit off their walls because they think that Marvel's walking around handing out cease and desist letters. They never were, but that fear is always there that I can't sell a Harley. Remember when Harley Quinn was everywhere and every cosplayer was Harley Quinn, and people would hand out cards saying, thank you for not being Harley Quinn. It was crazy, but people were so scared of getting in trouble for selling that stuff, right? Because it's their art that they make. But then you go to the guy next to him. I did this at a Wizard World back when Wizard World still had shows. They literally just downloaded pictures of covers, blew them up all pixelated, and were selling 11x17 prints of Marvel covers. Like,
Yep.
And I'm like, you can't do that. You don't own these. They're not posters. You just printed them yourself. So there's
What
always
if I
been
put a copyright at the bottom?
yeah, they didn't even crop that out.
So let me ask this, Sean, before you go forward on that. At what point, as a business owner, is our job to be the police?
So, and I love you brought that up because I was just talking with my friend Spencer Voigtkin from Comic Kingdom Creative about this. We've tried. I've probably been one of the loudest people of trying to police our side of the industry with what we do, right? People have called me a hypocrite, and I've been yelled at and called bad names, and someone called me a bottom feeder one time. It was terrible. But we've tried to police ourselves as much as we can, and that's why I was so excited when the Tidal Wave stuff was coming out, because I was like, finally a legal way to do this that's safe. We're not going to get in trouble, and we can have this. And I even said, man, the next few years is going to be these celebrity comics are going to dominate the market. And sure enough, they have, but now they've gone to the point to where the person that should be policing these is just not anymore. So,
but here's what, and Sean, I'm just trying to validate from what I did tonight. Mm-hmm. We said it last week, Brian. We said it so many times. If you don't call this stuff out, you're allowing the next thing to happen without having any backlash against things that we think are wrong. And for us to just sit here and just pretend that there was not an issue that we had to discuss tonight, I don't
want to get into that, because that was not the plan here to even talk about that.
No, it wasn't. But if we're going to bring the person on that had the controversy of the week, we're not going to not discuss it. That's not what this show's about, Brian.
Yeah, I get that. I get that, dude. But it's also not. You got to have some tact when you're handling stuff like that, Dennis. You don't have tact, bro.
I don't pretend to have tact.
I know you don't.
I'm not here.
I get that.
I'm not here to tactfully tackle the industry. I'm here to tell the industry what I think is wrong and right. And if we don't correct the industry when we have these moments, what are we even here for? I can go do anything else on a Tuesday night.
You can, but you're also there's ways to have these conversations. Here's a perfect example. Somebody said in the chat, if a clip of that gets out to other people, do you think other people are going to want to come on the show after watching that? Nobody's going to want to come on the show. You got to have tact when you do that stuff. Again, Anthony's learning how to dealing with that. He's never dealt with that. We're learning how to have tact on this show sometimes, man. It's just the way it is. It's got to happen.
You can have the tact. You can tell me to not come on your show when you want to have people who want to deal in stolen art.
Yeah,
I'll stay off the show
I
when
get
you
it.
want to have a fluff
I'll go get my
session.
own football. I get it.
You know, he's trying to do the right thing.
He is.
He's trying to operate in a very tricky space. He's operating within the guidelines that he thinks he was provided by the publisher. And, you know, I'll just not attacking anybody here, but, you know, Dennis, you haven't operated in that space in a long, long, long time. And it's easy to sit up on an ivory tower and throw
Wild West
stones
now.
and punch down at people and say, basically, you're a giant turd because you're still selling this book that's stolen art and you need to do this, you need to do that. But if you're in his scenario, in his situation, you know, who's to say you would do anything any different or anything he admitted what he did, which is it takes a lot of courage to admit that he made a mistake. He told everybody we're talking real money here. Real money. He told everybody what he is. Hey, if you want to, this was stolen from a box, you want to buy it, go for it. You know, in my opinion, man, you came at him way too hard than you probably should have came at him. But that's we all learn from our mistakes. Maybe you could also learn from your mistakes, sir, and just have a little more common courtesy to some people.
Yeah,
you're on here
anyway.
Yeah.
All right, next topic. That
so are you.
Next topic.
But so we're talking about the variance, and like we said, kind of back on that topic is we try to self-police as much as we can. It's getting more and more frustrating with sales declining. People get more and more desperate to do things. Desperation is never good.
Well, let's talk about this, because one of the things that we're seeing more and more, like, I don't think that the industry, again, I want to say this, I don't think that the retailer exclusive game is dead. I think that dying is a harsh word. I think it's changing, and it's changing to where now I think that what we're going to see is we're going to start seeing more and more retailers doing smaller print runs. You know, the kind of like what Bird City did on their book, where they did what is it, like 125 of the one, 75 of the other, 25 of the other, and then they'll do a couple medals of each, and the print runs stay small. That way they're not out a ton. The collectibility stays, because we got to be honest here. Comics is not a reading man's game anymore. It's not for people that read anymore. It's collectability. People want to collect stuff.
It dies.
Yeah. So the reading part is gone. The majority of people that buy comics, I don't believe, are readers anymore. I think it's changed to collectors that just grab a book, they like a cover, they put it in their short box, right? They don't even read those books. So what I think is going to happen is we're going to see more and more retailers do small print runs, 1,000 or less. I don't think that we're going to see very many more unknowns doing these huge, 4 or 5 Marvel variants.
Let me stop you there. You keep on saying 1,000. 1,000 is a lot of books.
That's what I'm saying. It's I know it's a lot of books.
The average store only does 250 to 500.
Yeah.
And for some of those stores, 500 is a lot.
Yeah.
The problem is publishers, and I said this and we never got to it, as long as your check clears, they're good to go. You used to be vetted before you did it exclusive, right? When I did my Bob's Burgers
they didn't want to flop.
Yeah. And when I did my Bob's Burgers exclusives, I had to go all the way to the TV studio to get approved. Or when we did our Rick and Morty's, we had to get approved by them. And so I think we're in a different world. And I think, I have 3 exclusives coming out. I've made my orders to sell out.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's what everybody should do. Is most people, there's a saying, if you order more than the minimum, you're an idiot.
Yep.
Like, order the minimum. Yep. You want to sell out. Like, that's the goal, is to sell out.
That's okay, too.
So order the minimum. Depending on what the title is, you still have to be approved by whoever owns that IP. So, Thundercats, for example, all those have to be approved by, Hasbro, whoever it is that owns them.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I think so. Brian, there's a dude out there, Adam Freeman. He tracks a lot of the sales data across comics.
Yeah.
I was on the show a couple times. The guy, he knows his stuff in comics, man. He's in the heart of the industry in a lot of areas lately. He'd be a great guest to have on. Maybe we don't have Dennis on when he's on. I think they got beef or something. But Adam said he's tracked data and he's shown like weekly periodicals have trended up for 2 quarters in a row.
Where's that data coming from? I would love to know where that data is coming from.
He tracks point of sale systems, so he has data from point of sale systems at comic stores.
But that's the thing. How many point of sale systems are being used by retailers?
But only the point of sale systems that are through the approved people.
Comic Hub, which is out of Australia. There's only 100 stores. So if you take 100 stores into 1,250, is that a good snapshot?
So he has other than that. I don't know exactly what it is. When I was on the show, he was telling me a little bit about it, but he has other stores that report data to him outside of Comics Hub also.
I think it is. I think when you're only talking about 1,200 stores, 100,
right? But
if they're tracking up, that
the
snapshot is going to be true. I've seen it. I have such a small market. I am in the tiniest. I have 8,000 people in my city. I have less than 50 subscribers. My diamond order is almost never before they split up. Never more than $1,000, right? I can see it at my shop. I can see that periodicals, the monthly books are selling more. I'm having to order more because I sold out. So next month's gets more. It has been steadily going up. And I will say way more than the last 2 quarters for me. It is since Absolute Batman came out.
Yeah.
So that's almost 8 months now.
So do you contribute that? Do you contribute that to new customers or the same customers buying more?
New customers.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that, again, this is all speculation. I have zero knowledge of this whatsoever, but the Absolute was definitely a catalyst for a lot of this. Those sales were insane, and then some of the other things too, like the Thundercats was another catalyst for it. The Transformers G.I. Joe from Skybound, that relaunching has been humongous. I think the hype is coming back for some Marvel stuff. People are excited about Fantastic Four and Doomsday and this other stuff coming out. So a little bit of that's coming back, pushing people back into, Thunderbolts wasn't terrible. Even though it's probably gonna lose money, but who cares? It wasn't that terrible. Anyway, the readership is picking back up again. And what we're noticing is, from what I see Adam talk about anyway, every time I complain about sales going down, he's like, maybe for the collectible market, but not for the reader market.
He's a shill. That's the problem is Adam has a marketing company that has to have rosy numbers to get more people to pay him to market their things.
I would love to see him on your guys' show, because we're talking about him. It'd be great to talk to him.
Well, unfortunately, he decided to move his industry show to Tuesday nights up against our show, so I don't think he'll have the time.
Well, maybe we can collaborate and do it both at the same
I'm sure
time.
he didn't make that move just to compete.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah,
I don't think he's like, I got to get that Brian McClay guy.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But you never know. Anyway, he's a guy out there that is in the industry. He knows a bunch of stuff.
I think it would be good to have something where we could track those. I don't think point of sale systems are good enough to get that info, but I don't know that. I don't work in the industry.
Right.
Well,
the problem is the industry doesn't work no industry works by a sell increase. What they work by is your turn rates. So if you're turning your books and they have a high increase, that's very important. If you have an increase in sales, but your turn rates suck, that doesn't help you. So I think this is a store by store basis on how you determine if your sales are up. And do I care if nationally book sales are up? I kind of care if my sales are up. And I think that's the best margin to
Yeah.
look at.
And on top of that, there are some outliers. I'll say it. If I look at those 100 stores numbers and I don't see them carrying certain books like Mark Spears, like Monsters by Mark Spears, I'm going to be very sus on those numbers. Is this just a Marvel DC, their favorite accounts reporting to make the industry look
I mean, we're
stronger?
totally speculating now. You're just speculating now. Like, well, if this is this and this ain't going to be good. We have no idea. You got to talk to the guy to find out. We have no idea. We could say,
Or he could publish it.
Well, I guess that'd be great. That'd be in everyone's dream world. That'd be amazing.
It would be great. I mean, I wish we could get numbers maybe from Lunar or from Penguin Random House, and we can say copies ordered as well as sales data.
The publishers, when I had my stuff in Lunar, I got all that data, man. I saw every store, what they ordered, how many they ordered. The publishers know, of course, but
they don't want those numbers to get out, though, Sean. That's the problem.
They don't.
Yeah, they're never going to get out. They'll never release them.
Right. So the point is, how good are the numbers if the biggest two people in this industry don't want those numbers released?
Well, that's what. Again, I don't know. I'm just the only point I was trying to make is that there's a guy out there that's tracking sales data. And then if it wasn't Adam, maybe it wouldn't be such a catalyzing topic right now. But there's a dude out there he's like him or hate him, Dennis personally. He is a pretty major person in the industry. He's helped some major people get stuff published and does all kinds of great stuff. Love him or hate him, the data's out there.
Marvel and DC actually wanted, because they don't want published numbers, they want sales numbers.
Yes.
Right? And Jesse will agree with that.
Yeah.
Who cares how many's ordered? How many sold?
Yes.
The opposite.
But,
the opposite.
Comics Pro was working with Marvel and DC, and they were trying to come up with a program that everybody would put in their sales every week. But if I'm not getting a kickback, like, I can't work for you, Marvel and DC. I'm already doing the marketing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and here's the thing. I know for a fact they don't want this, because Jesse and I, at the time at which we had Diamond POS systems, put together an entire group. And at that time, there was 2,000 retailers, and we found just 20 POS owners that were going to all share the data from all of our POS systems. And immediately, Diamond, at the behest of Marvel and DC, Marvel or DC or one or the other, we don't know, called all of us up and said, if you share any data, we will cancel all of your POS systems because we don't want those numbers shared.
We're in a totally different world now. There is no
totally different world.
Yeah.
Well, I understand that.
And you can't stop people from sharing that data. I mean,
you can. Have you ever read the entire user agreement?
From an ancient point of sale system nobody uses anymore?
This was 10 years ago when everyone used it.
Like I said.
Yeah. So Gary Morris, me and him come from the same company. I don't know if Gary, if you're still at the same company, but I went up to Blake Nordstrom one time and I said, Blake, you're not going to believe this. We got 10,000 Michael Jordan high tops coming in. And he said, I tell you what, next time you walk in the door, tell me how many we sold. I don't care how many we bought. And that's the world we need to get in. We got to start selling what we have. And till we start doing that, it makes it very tough to be very successful in any industry, let alone the comic book industry.
Well, one thing that's, a good indicator of what's selling. Again, I don't know, ordering, selling, two different worlds here. But a good indicator of what's selling could be, what are they still putting out? Because if people don't buy something. So what I've always said was, every single person that complains about all the variants that are out there, like, look how many Fantastic Fours were on FOC yesterday. It was insane.
Oh, it's crazy, right?
Apocalypse, same way.
Ridiculous.
Well, what I tell people is just stop buying them.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what Marvel said every year at the retailer summit.
But they're still putting them out.
But that was what they said. If you stop buying them, we'll stop making them.
So
exactly.
And guess what? Nobody stopped buying them, so they're still making them.
There's a shift now. This whole test out at Whatnot about these bags They're going to go direct to consumer. They're going to make way more than what we can buy them for.
And that's
Like
where the
if we do
variant
it
age is
exclusive.
heading, right there.
Right. That's what I believe. That's and good riddance. Get it out of my store. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and
I am ashamed to ask for $15 for a 1 in 20 variant, man.
Holy cow. Crazy.
I'm ashamed.
Yeah, I mean, I was chasing the 1 in 100 art germ and the 1 in 200,
yeah.
whatever it was. Like I was ordering to get those numbers up there. You know, like it's my FOC order was over, 10 grand retail, 5,000 discounted. How do we find your comics?
Alex just dropped a $5 super chat. He said, I want to ask Sean, how do we find your comics? Promote your website so we can please check them out.
I'll put it in the chat. Sure.
There we go. Comics Elite, ladies and gentlemen. You can find the description and the link to Comics Elite in the description under Sean's name too, as well as Bird City Comics.
So now Sean is going to start making web page link variants because he just got $5 for making a web link of his page.
Well, let's talk about what Emmett was talking about, because I think that's important, because I think that's where we're going to this with the whole variant thing. I think that retailers are souring on ratio variants because it's just getting ridiculous. Buyers are souring on ratio variants because it's just the non-trade dress image.
They're not special. They're doing
nothing special.
Issue 11 with nothing inside. There's nothing going on.
Even the art that they pick for him isn't great. Yeah.
Well, the ultimate, the penultimate was when they started doing 1 in 25s of fucking reprint books.
Oh, there's a ton of them this week. Almost every second print has a 1 in 25.
Every facsimile, every second print, every...
Oh, the facsimiles have ratios now too?
Yes. Yep. Oh, yeah. They did that all through the Spider-Man run that they did. They had alternate art 1 in 25s.
So I think that the industry is pushing not only retailers, but also the consumer, the buyers, away from ratio variants, right? And I think that the exclusive retailer game is being soured on by buyers because of what we've talked about. One, the cost. So retailers are having a hard time justifying, doing them for the most part. And then retailers or buyers are having a hard time justifying buying them because they feel like they can wait and just get them cheaper in 2 weeks. Okay.
Well,
or they aren't that good. But what I think is going to happen is that we're going to start seeing more, maybe for instance, maybe Dynamite goes to Lunar or Penguin Random House and says, okay, we're no longer going to do 10 colorway variants of each cover. We're going to do a virgin, a black and white, and that's it for each cover. And then if you want those colorways, we're going to offer a special crowdfunding package where you can get the colorways, the 10 different colorways on Kickstarter, or you can get the 10 different colorways on our crowdfunding website. I think that's where it's going to go. And then the smaller groups, like Vault, Mad Cave, or Tidal Wave, they're doing such small print runs that it's easier for these people to justify spending it.
Right.
Yeah, you're also. I got to peel right back, and I'm gonna talk about that because I love that idea, but you can't do that many on Kickstarter because with how fast Dynamite puts those books out, that's going to slow it way down. It's a great concept, though.
They could have it on their own website, though.
I think Red Hood had the greatest comment in the chat so far.
Yeah.
How about a variant with a good story inside?
Yeah, that's called cover A. It's called cover A, just so you know.
Yeah.
Hey, but the good story part isn't always guaranteed with a cover A.
Right, exactly. But so at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to understand our business, to understand our customers, and that's how we should be buying. We should not be buying because Sean is doing one, Dennis is doing one, Emma is doing one. Oh, I better do one. No, if it doesn't make sense to you, then don't do it. The nutrition rate, and Dennis knows this, Sean definitely knows this, the nutrition rate of successful exclusive companies is very small. Maybe 1 out of every 50 is successful.
I would go one step further. The most successful is the people who get out of them.
Yeah,
Yeah. As of late, it seems.
right.
Um,
And I still think that it's the company's responsibility
Out of,
to make sure that person can sell the book.
Jesse. Well, no, absolutely. I absolutely agree with that because most companies won't do that. But I mean, honestly, Jesse, you've been in the variant game 20 years, 20 years for me. We're out, you're back in. You're Don Corleone. Every time I'm out, they pull me back in. But how many people walked away from this and are still in business today?
You know, you're I like what Dennis said. He said the successful ones are the ones that get out.
Yeah, and it's very tough because what happens as you do this more is you become friends with some of these publishers. Well, most of the publishers that you do it exclusive with. And you make those decisions sometimes, and afterwards you're like, you know what? Our friendship doesn't pay that bill.
You know, somebody told me back in a while back, imagine if there were retailer exclusives when Dark Knight Returns was being published, the first one.
Oh, yeah.
How would that have ruined that for people? I think so. I think it would have wrecked it. We have 4 very iconic covers for Dark Knight Returns. Well, every Watchmen cover is instantly recognizable from the Watchmen run. You know,
listen,
there's tons of those books back then.
Swaggle House put a comment in there that he says, to be honest, he doesn't think that the comic industry can survive without variants. And what you're talking about, Sean, is how they can survive. Let's talk about back then. If you're trying to tell me that comic book writers now are as good, are putting out as good of stories as they were back then, you're crazy.
Well, I mean, Brian, what's the big story that got released this week or last week that they're killing Aquaman again or something?
Who cares?
Yeah,
well, but that was what the story. I saw a post about it. It's like, oh boy, DC thinks they're gonna do something exciting by killing Aquaman.
I was more interested that they're bringing Punisher back again.
Again, and you know it.
But
it doesn't
DC,
work anymore.
when they had a successful Aquaman movie, did not have an Aquaman book.
Yeah. You know,
they had passed it on to the kid.
So here's some differences though. Like, I mean, I would love to know. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. Somebody could look it up. How many copies were sold of just the original Dark Knights when they first came out?
I think it was 500,000.
Like, we're not hitting anywhere near those numbers on anything nowadays.
Oh, I know.
There is, but it is with variants.
Well, yeah, with variants. So here's
gimmicks.
So when Swaggle House said that we have to have variants to survive, the reason is they have to hit that all important print number to get that printing cost so low.
Doesn't matter. Comics aren't the money. They make nothing on comics. They make nothing. If you look at all the artists, the writers, all the editors, how many people they have in place, they make no money on comics.
Well, and I mean,
comics will always be here for the IP so that they can sell lunchboxes and hats and T-shirts where all the money is.
Yeah, but they have to make some money on those. Those companies would not keep at that big of a loss. They would have gone digital, 100% something. They're making. They tried
to go digital. It was a huge failure.
Yeah, I've said it on this show a ton of times. The second one of those big two decide they don't want to, the other one will leave overnight. The only reason they're both staying in it is to not cede money to the other guy. That's the only reason.
Well, probably, but like they're, as
creative vacuum, and all the creatives will go over to Image and all put out their own books. And people will be reading those, and their IP will grow, and then they'll be able to sell hats and T-shirts on that.
So we published 7 copies of Miss Meow, 6 copies of Death Rage, 6 copies of Born in Blood. Not a ton, but every one of those, if I didn't do variants, would have lost their total ass on those books. 100% of a loss. I had to be so on point with number 4. Okay, what variants are we going to print for this? Is Halloween coming up? Is Christmas coming up? Are we going to do a con exclusive for it? Had to have all that art lined up in advance so we could try to hit that all important 3,000 to 5,000. Then that's super small, 3,000 to 5,000 print number to try to get our books to where we will be able to make 70 cents per copy profit after paying for interior and everything else. But then we would still do our online exclusive and we would do our Shakari exclusive. So those interiors would pay for themselves in other ways.
But if an animation company came to you and go, we love Merc, we're gonna make an animation of it, and you're making so much money on that printing the comics just is then just selling, keeping your IP
an afterthought at that point.
Right?
It's just something.
Yeah, but I mean, Brandon Peterson.
It's not losing money hand over fist, though. You know what I'm saying? Like
I'm not saying it's losing money. At best, they're breaking even.
Yeah, I agree. I would see that 100%. They're probably breaking even.
Brandon Peterson, or David Peterson, did Mouse Guard 20 years ago. It got optioned immediately by Fox. I actually last year got to talk to David about, hey, whatever happened? He goes, we were in pre-production. Fox got bought by Disney. Disney didn't want another mouse.
Right.
I mean, you know how many things get optioned and nothing ever happens?
Nothing. And so you can't wait around for that.
But they're not waiting around for it, Dennis. Marvel and DC already has all of it. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a small indie publisher. I'm saying Marvel and DC already have all this intellectual property that's in the zeitgeist and the pop culture, and they're making billions off of it.
Right. But do you know what DC made a ton of money on this year in comics?
Hush.
What did they make a ton of money on?
Their mobile game.
Yeah, well,
not as much as Rivals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dollar Tree.
Dollar General book.
Dollar Tree books.
You think they made money on that?
Oh, yes.
They were reprints. Cost them nothing. They didn't have to pay artists.
Nothing. Plus.
And they printed hundreds of thousands of each one of them.
Yeah. Per title.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, it's one that they made.
What was it? 26 different titles, Jesse? 52.
Yep. 52 titles.
Oh, I get it. 52. Yeah. I like it.
Yep. Yeah. So there are ways to do it. But what are they doing? They're not selling to the comic book store. They're going to a company that has 15,000 stores.
Yeah, but what are they trying to do with that? They're trying to get people to start reading again. They're trying to get kids picking up comics.
I think so.
But is that real? Because the thing is we had that announcement a year ago. I never saw them at my Dollar Tree. I've heard just now certain Dollar Trees are just now putting them out.
Possibly. Well, you know how they run their Dollar Trees. You're lucky if they have one employee that works there.
Right. But what I'm saying is if this was some giant altruistic loss of money.
I didn't say it was altruistic.
I'm adding that as hyperbole. If this was to get kids to read comic books at Dollar Tree, that's not what they're following up to do. There was no, hey, go find your local comic book store. Hey, go to DC online and buy these digital comics. There was none of that.
It was just a one-time 52 comic.
Apparently it was, because they haven't announced a follow-up in a year. I don't know a single corporation that does something as successful as that and doesn't follow it up. Jesse, have you ever heard of a corporation having a successful launch and then never following it up?
Jordan's every year does that, right?
No, they follow it up.
Well, they follow up the next year, but within a quarter, very few companies don't. It's a constant. You sell cookies until your last cookie is sold. And if people ask for more, you make more cookies until they stop asking. And I think in the comic book world, you got to keep in mind, Dollar Tree is regional. So nothing shows up at every single region.
Right.
It's done in separation, and that's how it works. So that's a little bit different company there. But
we just had that same thing with Ollie's. You showed me in March the Scott Pilgrim box sets. Yep. My Ollie's just got them. I went to another store. They haven't even seen them.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're
talking about, again, not to pull you guys out of your rabbit hole too much, but can comics survive without variants? And in today's day and age, I would say no. And because we have to have they have to get those print numbers high in order to get some kind of a profit, so they can at least break even or whatever they're doing. But those print numbers are so important, right? Another thing I want to mention too is that, don't forget this. If somebody does a retail exclusive and they get those 3,000 trade dresses, let's say they do 3,000 trade, 1,000 version, that's 4,000 copies. That's 4,000 more copies they sold of that issue. That's 4,000 more they get to say, look how many we sold of this to when they're doing their sales reports and their PowerPoints, they can say we sold this many. Plus, as a retailer, I get 41 and 100s. I get 81 and 50s. I get 161 and 25s. I got to pay for them, half 50% off.
Right, exactly, yeah.
But I get all those variants too. So now they just sold 4,500 ish copies. So that's why Marvel and DC don't care if stores become sub-distributors of their books. And I mean, pick up a Marvel book. The quality sucks. It's
awful.
It's a coverless cover. It's the cover interior. The cover page is the exact same quality as the interior page.
Yeah.
So it's a coverless comic, right? Vince, when he worked at DC, explained that to me.
Yeah.
Dynamite started doing cardstock. DC does cardstock covers. Marvel still does paper thin covers.
Yep.
And guess who probably still sells more comics than everybody in this industry?
Probably
Who's
Marvel.
that?
Marvel.
Oh, of course, because they have all the properties.
Right.
But here's the funny thing. I think that thank God for Image Comics and some of the smaller publishers, because I think that there's no doubt in my mind that right now Image is holding the the publishing comic side on its back. I mean, and a lot of the indie publishers are, because I think that the product that DC's got better product now overall, but I think the stuff that Marvel is putting out is absolute garbage. I look over at Image, and all my favorite things that I like to read right now are coming from Image. You know what I mean? And Skybound and then in indie publishers, smaller publishers. So that's very interesting to me. That I know that people are going to say, "Oh, you look at the top selling books are still mostly DC and Marvel." But I'm telling you guys, I know you guys think that a lot of people read those books. I don't think that a lot of people are reading. The amount of.
Let me ask you this, Brian. I'm going to put you on the spot here. When you walk up to a counter to buy your comics, how many times has the store owner said to you, "Are you going to read all these comics before I sell? Because I want to make sure you're going to read these before I sell them to you."
I understand that, but that doesn't. What does that have to do with anything that we're talking about? That still doesn't mean that the product is good or bad.
It doesn't matter. If you're selling product and the customer is buying it, does it matter if it's good or bad?
Yeah, well, they won't buy the bad product though. That's what I'm saying. They'll quit buying the bad product.
Hold on, Jesse.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. Finish your point.
We went to, at the beginning of the show, we're then go to completionists and collectors. Well, most collectors are completionists. So they don't want to skip 6 issues in their run just because it was bad.
This question is to Jesse and Emmett. How many collections have you bought? And I just bought one this week, where the customer's bag from 3 or 4 weeks in a row is still in there in the bags and boards with the receipt, and it has not been opened at all.
Oh,
I've gotten some like that, but not every single one. But I've got
not every single one, but at least enough that there are plenty of customers out there that buy their books from their stores every week and don't ever even touch them.
Yeah,
that was me for a long time. I just run out of time. I want to read them.
Yes.
They wind up sitting on the back of the toilet, and I never read them.
Yep. Yep.
Exactly. So my point is, Brian, that there are a lot of people out there that are completionists and collectors that the story isn't that important to them. Now, the customers that the stories are important to them might still be completionists and collectors. So,
Well, here's
just
the
because
problem with
story's
that.
bad means
Here's
there's
the
still
problem
people
with
buying
that,
the
though.
book.
The problem with that, in my mind, is this: if and that's fine. I understand that you don't. You're selling the product. You don't care what the customer does with it. I get that. But if the customer is no longer reading the product anymore, then that just totally pushes away our whole conversation about, these publishers putting out a good product, right? Because if customers aren't even reading them, and if you don't care if the customer reads in them, then all we care about is just creating the art on the cover.
So, are you saying that customer wouldn't be buying another book that she had suggested to him?
What do you mean by that? I don't understand that.
So, if the customer stops buying Man Thing, I don't know what's current, Man Thing, and you suggest
I'd love a Man Thing book. They don't make
right?
a Man Thing book.
And they buy Swamp Thing. So our job is not only to, if someone comes to me and says, listen, I want to take these 5 books off my pull list, I want to sell them 5 more different titles.
Yeah.
So we should always be suggesting.
You're 100% right.
Well,
you're 100% right, but that has nothing to do with the point that the product is still being put out poorly. If the product continues to be put out poorly, I don't care how many completionists you have, you're going to start dropping customers.
Yeah.
But
no, it happens. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's why we complain about them rebooting all the time, right? Because story starts to suck. I mean, look at the sales that decline so much between 1 and 4 of an issue, 1 and 5 of an issue. If that story's not good, people drop off in droves.
Yep.
In droves. When I was reviewing comics I have my comic review show I did on YouTube. Every week me and another dude would read every book that came out that week, 30, 40 books a week. It was crazy. And ASM just sucked so long. It sucked. And it's like, no wonder why no one's reading this. It's freaking terrible. And then everything started getting super woke. Not to get into all that crap, but everything was gender swap or a race swap or a this swap or that swap. And you didn't even recognize the heroes we grew up loving anymore. That's from what I'm seeing, that's slowly, it is going away. Marvel faster than DC, but that's starting to go away. It's just to focus on, there's no more agenda driven stories. It's just telling a good story. It's not like we have to make an Asian, Black, bisexual person in this book anymore. It's not a purpose-driven story like that. It's just a good story, good hero's journey, a good human story we can all relate to, so that's starting to get more readership again.
So obviously we all have done FOCs. How do we make those determinations on an FOC?
Well, I mean, you have to you don't have to read all the books, but the flavor text doesn't tell you a lot sometimes, obviously. Some of the better publishers, like Brian said, Image, I get full PDFs of those books sometimes in my email before FOC is even out. Like, you can read the whole thing before it even comes out. Marvel and DC, you don't really know. You just kind of got to, at least keep your ear to the wall, and maybe you don't read everything that comes through, but, listen to your readers, listen to the guys. Like if issue 2 or 3, you could tell right away. Can't remember what it was. The Robin, not Tim Drake. It was a Robin miniseries, one of the worst comics ever made. They decided to make him bi and all sorts of crap. He had a boyfriend.
Right,
Art was terrible. You can tell from the word go that's gonna suck. When Superman's son comes out as being bisexual and gay, we finally have a gay Superman. It's about time. I mean, come on, it's right there in your face. You can't ignore that, And it just seems to be absolute Batman, absolute Wonder Woman, absolute Flash is what issue 4 or 5 or something now. Like, it's a good story. Scott Snyder telling good stories again, bringing readers back.
So since you've done Kickstarters, I'm going to ask you this question real fast. Once you do the first cover, everything else is considered a variant, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Why do those variants sell for more with no issues as far as the price goes?
Kickstarter is a different world.
Yeah.
It's a different world. It really is. Part of the initial appeal to Kickstarter, in my opinion, when this first was coming out, I would support Kickstarters all the time because I wanted that special variant I could only get on Kickstarter. I wanted to be the first guy to get that book. I wanted all the little goodies that came with it, stickers and the hat and whatever other crap they're going to throw in there, right? And I wanted those books. I wasn't a stranger to paying $20, $30, $40 for a limited. I was a huge Zenoscope customer and a Zenoscope retailer. You know, I was paying $100 for a naughty cover limited to 100. You know, only 100 were made.
No.
That's crazy. Only 100. That's nuts.
Yeah.
I got to get one of those. $100. That's a bargain for an eBass or Don McTagg cover. For $100, give me 3 of them because I got customers that want them. That was nuts back then.
Yeah.
So I wasn't any stranger to paying that much for those books. Yeah. Now, last Kickstarter we did, I think I'm trying to price my trade dresses at $10. You know, and even you could get the nice, the naughty, and the full naughty for like $50 for all 3, something like that. But Kickstarter is just a different world. People are willing to pay that for Kickstarter books. Part of it's because I don't know, it depends on most of the time the cover quality is better, supposed to be. That's subjective anymore. Better art's all subjective, of course, but
portion is friends and family.
Yeah, and look at some Kickstarters nowadays. There's people just talk about crap on the inside of covers. Every story is strippers have guns and they're killing other strippers with guns.
Yeah.
Or it's some kind of weird fantasy.
You know
thing.
your customers.
It's the same. The interiors suck. You know, like anyway. But yeah, that's why Kickstarter is just a different world.
Right.
Like, you know, like same thing on my website. I can put up a book on my website and people will just pay more. Like I could put up a slab on my Shakari Lady Death, the Shakari comp version of it. I put that thing up there, it'll sell for $300 in 2 minutes. Sure. I put it on Whatnot for a month and no one will even look at it. No, like 300, nope. Too much for me. Just different platforms. Put it on eBay. Jesse, you know about eBay stuff. Yep. People pay more on eBay Live than they will on Whatnot for stuff.
That's crazy. It is crazy. You know, one of the things that just dawned on me when you're talking about the gentleman who puts together the figures and all that, should we not be counting Kickstarter sales as part of comic book sales as a whole?
Bro, I've been saying that for ages.
We've been saying it on this show for 60-some episodes.
Saying it for ages.
Kickstarter sales or comic book sales.
Yeah, I forgot my numbers. I could look them up, but I think we're close to raising over $2 million on Kickstarter between the ones that we've done over the years. I think it's over 18 Kickstarters, $2 million-ish dollars. Those are sales, man. Why is it just lunar sales count? Right, what about all the sales on my website? You know how many power hours I've sold on Comics Elite and on Whatnot? Every Shakari cover between the nice, the naughty, the full naughty, the box exclusive, the Whatnot exclusive, my Patreon exclusive, between those 6, that's on a sales channel, my Patreon. Between those 6 covers, there's at least 2,000 issues printed, every single Shakari cover.
Is there a way to track all this? There isn't, though, right? And that's why, you know, we have the things like Cover Price, or not Cover Price, Go Collect, putting up a thing saying that they're going to allow, you know, you to tell what you sold your book for and put it on there. I mean, that's the hard part is that there's just no way to track all these. You need a one system.
Yeah, there's guys that guy came around at C2E2 was talking about private sales. You can log in private sales. If you sell a slab to your buddy, that's dangerous. That's a good thing, but it's also dangerous. If I can log in what I sold, you should have to have the other party, at least a second party verification.
Yeah,
yes, I paid.
That's why I suggested the thumbs up and thumbs down from the community. I think the community can police that bullshit pretty quick.
Yeah, it just depends, man. Like if somebody, you know, and sometimes I don't. Again, I could get into this whole thing, but sometimes I'm a weirdo. If something's going for too high on Whatnot, I'll cut it off. I'm like, guys, stop. You're paying way too much for this book. What are you doing?
Yep.
Or I'll throw in, here's 3 free variants for this, man. You put
people will fight it out. They'll fight it out, man, just because they want to win that thing in the end.
Yeah, I'll tell them, like, don't. Sometimes I'm like, I have 7 more of these right here. Don't pay this much for this book. Like, I'll put another one up.
Yeah, the toughest thing is when you have one for buy it now, right? And it's hitting. You have it buy it now for 10, and it's
you
at
also get the
$70.
Well, I love the guys back in the day when I was on Whatnot. You know, I would have the book over here in the buy it now, and it would go up. And there was always one smart guy I would see, because you would see the name of the person bidding and the name, and then that one of those guys was like, "Fuck, I'm out." Click buy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, thanks for bidding that one up, but yeah, buy more. We got plenty of them in the chat.
You know, something we're always going to battle. There's two things we're always going to battle in any collectible market, whether it be cards, sports cards, Pokemon cards, Magic cards, comics, video games, fucking Louis Vuitton purses, right? Whatever you're talking about that's collectible. There's two things we got to battle with. There's always people that think it's easy. All I got to do is, if I just had some of those comics, I could sell them and make a fortune.
That's the Pokemon game right now.
Hey man, can I buy a long box of comics from you? Sure. I always ask, what are you going to do with them? Because I'm not just, just chasing the bag, right?
Sure.
Like, sure, just take them. I don't care what you do with them. What are you going to do with them? I don't want you dumping my stuff. I don't want you just, do you know what to do with them? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so there's always people that think it's field of dreams. Build it and they will come. Right. As long as I have some covers, man, I can just go live on Whatnot. And guys, I got it. And you feel like you won. Remember when you first get approved for your Diamond or Lunar account? It's like you won the lottery, man. You're like,
yeah,
the gates are open.
I got a Diamond account. Like everyone's like, oh, congratulations,
Yeah.
bro. You got a Diamond account. Oh my God, you are the man. I knew you could. Congratulations. It doesn't mean fuck all to have a Diamond account, man. Like
Not anymore.
Can get one. And then, not anymore. And then, like, if I just had a John Giang cover, I could
Too
make
soon.
Can I get some money, man? Can I get some?
Yeah.
Or can I get a bundle? Can I get a bundle that I'm trying to start my Whatnot streaming account? And then after like three or four streams, and they had 2 people watching them for 3 hours, and they made 1 sale and did 4 giveaways, and they actually lost $12. They're going like, Whatnot sucks. Yeah, Whatnot sucks.
Well, there's that famous guy that called in on that investment show, and he had run up $60,000 on Pokemon cards to sell them on Whatnot, and he'd sold all the good stuff, and he had all the crap left.
Yeah, it's just so we're always dealing with that. People that think it's easy, right? It's just easy to do. It's no problem. And then there's just people that think that the hype people that just they're the grifter guys, the guys that show up and they think that, I'm going to do a bunch of Marvel and DC exclusives out of my garage and I'll make a ton of money. And they don't care about the industry as a whole. They don't care about the big picture. They don't care about what they're doing to the industry. They want to swoop in, grab a bunch of money as fast as they can, and then just leave.
Yep.
And we see it in Kickstarter. How many unfulfilled Kickstarters are there?
What's that one guy, Brian, that you had on, the controversial guy that used to sell
Epic Nation.
Oh yeah,
Epic Nation, that guy.
Yeah.
But that was it. He moved from like trying to rent out luxury cars to get into the comic book game.
Yeah. There was a dude a long time ago. I mean, I have to tell this story. It's I'm not going to tell it all now, but this dude ran the Brain Trust. It was a group on Facebook.
I remember the Brain Trust.
Yep, he ran a group on Facebook. He was, but anyway, long story short, I wound up busting this guy and calling him out because he was going around claiming he's a veteran. And he was going around trying to say he was an officer in the military. And finally, one day I was just like, nothing this guy says adds up to anything military people would say. I retired 24 years from the Marine Corps. I know a little bit about the military. This dude, I finally called him out and I was just like, hey man, I need some proof you're in the military. Send me your DD-214. Everybody has one. Send me DD-214. I don't have it. Okay, give me something. He's got me some. Anyway, long story short, I made a big post saying Craig Oscarson. That was his name. Craig Oscarson. I called the dude out, and he said he had tons of people message me. This guy used to sell phony forged football signatures on footballs, and he kept asking me for discounts because he was a veteran and wanted discounts, and he had a big group that he would do Marvel and DC covers for and just try to, and everybody had to buy, and he never fulfilled them and gave them out anyway. There's tons of guys out there like that. So there's always people that think it's easy, and there's always grifters in every industry.
The comic
Every
bros.
industry. Was that?
The comic
I call them
bros.
the comic bros.
Yeah.
I call them New Jack Flippers.
Yeah. They're the worst, man. And we got to try. And what sucks is I can't just come out here and be like, all these guys suck because I look like a dick. You know, no, I look like an asshole. Oh, don't buy this guy.
Don't worry, Sean. I'll do it.
Apparently. But so it's tough, man. It's tough to the AI bros now. That's another one we gotta look out for. Is all these AI artists, man, and there's several of them. I know of at least 3. These dudes, they can very basically draw, and all of a sudden overnight their art has transformed into this amazing art. And they're like, oh, I got a new colorist. Fuck you and your colorist. You have an AI filter. That's who your colorist is.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, there's red flags. Like you said, Sean, that guy was throwing off red flags. And sometimes when you see those red flags, maybe you gotta call somebody's card but
Oh, you don't want to be a bully, Brian. Don't call anyone's card and be a bully.
There's ways to call somebody's card and do it in a decent way, man.
Yeah. So the John Gallagher thing, Spencer Voikin was gonna do I did the Metallica set I did for Tidal Wave. And he's like, hey, I got a cover. Do you think this will be good? And he sent it to me. And I was like, I think I recognize this. I instantly Google searched it, and it was a cover. It was the album cover to like this import album. And I sent it back to him, and I was like, bro, tell Gallagher to fuck off.
Yeah.
I was like, if I didn't check this, you be fucked. And he's like, you're right, man. Like, holy crap, I gotta tell him he's done. And then there was a gun honey that he did. And
I heard about this one.
And then the gun honey, sure enough, it was a shared exclusive. I got a chunk of it. Part of it we saw was lifted from somewhere else. This was like 3 weeks after we sold it, fulfilled it. After the con was over, I was like, he got us. He fucking got us. Like, bro, I am done with this guy. 100% done with this guy.
Yeah.
Like,
KRS Comics just dropped a $9.99 super chat. Shout out to KRS. They say, our space has changed. Back in the day, all you needed was a killer cover. Now you need a killer cover, low print runs to ensure collectability, and hopefully value retention. Hey, Sean.
Chris, man, he is probably one of the best in our industry. I just talked about KRS earlier. I said,
I couldn't agree with you more,
Natalie
Sean.
Sanders Poison Ivy cover. Go check that out on their website. He gave me some of the best advice long time ago. I think it was maybe a Las Vegas con or somewhere, and I'm hovering outside his booth, and I'm just looking around like wide-eyed, brand new to the industry, like, I got to get some of these covers. I was like, bro, I'm gonna do an exclusive. He pulled me aside and he's like, I got a tip for you. He's like, the best thing I can tell you is this. He said, don't use your next cover to pay for your last cover. Don't use this one to pay for the next one. You do this project, pay for that project, then go to your next cover.
It's a cherry on top. You can't get in the situation where you have to sell something that's going to damage your brand, and then you get desperate. And when you get desperate, you start cutting corners. And when you cut corners, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
And then you see all of those variants sitting at an auction for, what was his name?
Frankie's.
Sorry, I can't remember losers that are dead to me in this industry. Yeah, I mean, dude, but that's the thing. I don't ever want to see my brand auctioned off by the short box that I've built.
That's everyone's nightmare. When I sent that picture to some of my friends, my retailer friends, and here's another big conversation. This is a whole nother show, Brian, but what is the exit from this industry for a retailer? How do we retire from this industry? Right.
I'll tell you in about 4 to 5 years.
Well, I got a plan. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but like really, do we just keep doing exclusives until we die?
Well, I'll give you the best example. There's this guy that got rid of his store in this state, and moved to another state and retired. And this morning, that guy was trying to put together a shelf for 9 hours in his new comic book store. And then Shannon walks in and says, Jesse, you haven't finished that yet? I'm like, no. She goes, well, why don't you read the directions? And then I finished it in like 10 minutes. So there is no out. That's the problem, because we love what we do, and you got to get out of the, well, I love comics. Can you collect comics afterwards? Possibly, but that's the challenge.
The way out is to bring in a partner that has a small percentage. You teach them everything you know, and then when you're ready to retire, they take a loan on the business and buy you the fuck out.
Yeah.
I'll go one step further. Build a business model that runs like a Swiss clock without you having to be there.
Yep.
Sell that business. Go open another one if you get bored. Sell that business when you get bored with it.
Selling businesses are tough to somebody who doesn't know the business.
Yeah.
They'll be out of business. I mean, you probably could sell your business, but they won't. Every comic store that I've seen bought out has.
Yes, because, well, it's a different business model, Emmett, that I'm working with.
No, I understand that.
It doesn't rely
I
on
watched
that.
your video.
I know. What I'm saying is, oh my God, this cat.
Well, I mean, what I'm working on, like, I have fulfillment, I have sellers, I have website, I have eBay, I have Patreon, I have all these different channels that generate money, and then I have employees that manage those channels, right? So what I'm doing is the employees are so good right now. I'm so proud of my staff, man. It took me years to get the staff I have, but the staff is so good, and I think they're paid well enough to where they're going to stick around, to where I'm getting less and less important in my business. Now I'm focusing more on the creative side of things. So now I'm just focus more on the writing and the editing and getting the covers together. And we got to launch every month of a new comic every month this rest of this year.
Wow.
It started with this month we did Jesse Zombie Hunter #2, and then Power Hour 3 is next month, and then Merc Special is next month, and then we're starting a big crossover between all the Merc and Black Ops properties, and tons of people are going to die. It's going to be awesome. It's called Void Song 1 through 5, takes us through the rest of the year. Anyway, I'm focusing more on that. So, but your average guy, like, that has a store, even that does exclusives, like Anthony, for example, right? I mean, he's a younger guy. I'm not as old as some of you old bastards in this show, but I'm 51, young spring chicken compared to, the graybeards over here. Just kidding. I'm just teasing you guys. But, I mean, really though, like, you got to think, oh, Nolan Ryan, fuck him. He was a douche.
Yeah.
Ryan Houslip was talking about this. Sorry, got distracted in the chat. But yeah, it's difficult. Like Emmett was saying, hopefully you can bring out a partner and then sell the business to them, right? That'd be great. But you know what? I know some guys that have kind of sold off little chunks of their business. Like, I sold my eBay business to the person that runs the eBay side of it, and then I sold the website to the website person. And I sold my live sales channels to the live sales manager that does it. But for me, at the heart of all that is, well, but who's getting the product to put on those channels? Who's coming up with the variants and making the decisions of, this artist is going to do this concept,
right?
And we're going to release it with this convention, because that's
they all die after that happens. When you break it up like that, it all just dies because it doesn't have the glue that was you keeping it together.
Yeah, so it's tough. Like, so anyone thinking about getting this industry, you got to think about not only how you're going to get into it, but how you're going to exit it.
Right.
How do you get out of it?
Right. How do you get out of it? The one thing, though, I think that you have to distinguish is, if someone says to me, oh, I collect Comics Elite, I don't think Comics Elite, I think Sean. And when your brand becomes you, I'm a bad example. Just James Comics, I'm Jesse James. So don't include me. But when your face becomes the brand, how do you take your face away from the brand and still be successful? Whether you have good employees or not, that's the challenge we face in the future if we want to stay in this business.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, one of my Whatnot channels is called Sean's Comics. My Patreon is called Sean's Comics. You know, I mean, I barely am in there. My employees run it, and they know that, you know, Natasha and Scott, the employees that run it, they talk to them. They don't expect if they're going to get a message from me. But
Right.
still, they expect me to be involved and to be around and to make the calls and do certain things. So, well, why get out of it? Great question, Alex Lodermeyer. I mean, I'm 52. If I'm lucky, I got another 20 years of good life, maybe.
Did you just grow a 1 year older during this show?
Well, okay, July.
He's
I'm
going
52,
on
sorry.
52. Yeah.
So I'm closer to 52 than 50. I'm
Okay,
54 years old, man.
All right, you said 51.
I'll be
I'm like,
63
whoa.
by the end of the show.
Yeah, how,
I'm trying to make you old fuckers not feel so bad, man.
I'm only 1 year older than you, Sean.
Yeah, you're old as shit, man. Jeez.
Yeah.
I tease Jamie Tyndall. He's 1 year older than me. I give him crap all the time.
Alex, my answer, simple answer. It gets boring. The same shit over and over every week. That's why I got out of new books. I wanted to do something different. I had this idea kicking around, decided to put it into action. That worked. I had a different idea for the same model, tried that. That worked. Now I'm trying a third one. Hopefully that works.
Yeah.
You get bored.
It's
do
going to
we
be.
have time to talk about Diamond at all?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me wrap this up. So basically, I think that when it comes to the retailer game, I think that we have some major four major things, right? We have the oversaturation of the market, right? When it comes to the retail with the variants, you've got speculator burnout, collector burnout, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing. Retailers' risk has gotten too high on this, so they're thinking about it more. And the collector, our behavior has totally changed on how we see variants, right? The speculators, if they still made money, the speculators would still go get it. But even the collectors are looking at it like in a totally different way now, whereas they would instantly, oh, it's a retailer exclusive, I want to get that one, or I think it's more rare, or it's going to be more collectible, or this and that, like you were talking about, Sean, with the Kickstarter. Oh, an EBOS 1-in-1 that's limited to 100, I want it. You know, now that's not the case anymore. So but here's the biggest question: are the publishers noticing? And I don't want you guys to answer that because we don't know, but I want to know, to the publishers out there, if you have a SOC account and you work in publishing, I want to know if you're noticing, and let us know in the description below. Make a SOC account. I don't care. I want to know, are publishers noticing the burnout in the variant game? And that's the very interesting thing. So,
you know, here can I just answer real quick on that, Brian?
Yeah.
You know why I don't think they notice it? Because they're still doing it. Image, Eric Stevenson gets up in front of the retailers 10, 15 years ago. I can't remember the timeline. And you remember this, Jesse.
Yep.
Gives that huge speech that variants suck. And we're not doing variants anymore. A year later, hey, you need to order more of these variants, retailers. Here's all the variants that we're having. Variant. Every year, it's something different, but it's really just buy more comics. We need you to buy more comics.
I'm going to offer a little bit of constructive criticism, Dennis, and I love you, brother. But a lot of your stories, bro, start with, remember 15, 20 years ago? Remember 10 years ago? Remember 15 years ago? A lot of stuff we're talking about, bro, when I watch your show a lot too, a lot of it it's just not relevant anymore, brother. Like a lot of stuff that happens
it's all
now.
Relevant.
But it's
those who do not study history are doomed to repeat it, Sean.
We're doomed to repeat it anyway because people are just horrible. Humans repeat it because we're greedy.
I think that Sean is right for a little bit of it. I agree with you. I think that Dennis has changed his the way that he does business based on those problems, and he hasn't had to deal with buying new issues.
I just, I would suggest this. Try it probably won't happen, but for example, I had to do FOC last night for the first time again in about a year. I stopped doing FOC on the website. We made a big decision as a company to start offering FOC again. You're going to start seeing them up again. It was eye-opening just being away from it for about a year and getting back into Penguin and Lunar and doing FOC, looking at those books. It was eye-opening. So much had changed. It's still the same, but so much had changed and been different, right? I have to take that into account while I'm prepping to go to Dallas Comic-Con and try to get all the stuff organized. Who are we going to get books signed by? Who's going to be there? Who's bringing exclusives? What artists are going to be there? What streamers am I bringing? How many streams are we going to run? I got to make sure my website launches are going to be good while we're gone. We're launching a Shakari cover this weekend. I'm still getting ready to publish stuff. There's so many things that I'm balancing and juggling now that are just relevant now. It's different between doing that and I bought a big collection. I'm going to sell it in my store. Okay, well, I mean, it's just different levels of selling comics. Again, not that one's any better than the other. They're just different. And when I'm talking about stories about how, for example, man, so the retailer variants are this and the retailer variants are that, and we're frustrated by variants, and we're frustrated by this. Remember 15 years ago when they sold this toy and they did a thing and they lost all these customers? Yeah, cool story, man. So what are we talking about again?
We're talking about Shakari variants because we always have to talk about Shakari variants. We have to mention Shakari about every other sentence. I'm going to have a really cool drinking game when I watch this again. I'm going to fill a giant glass, and every time Sean says Shakari, I'm going to take a drink.
Why are you getting so defensive?
No, I'm just saying you're playing.
You don't have to drink 4 or 5 times. I've barely talked about that.
Oh my God, chat, please.
Go ahead.
He's only said Shakari once this whole time, Dennis.
Oh my God, I will bet you serious money right now, Brian. I will put whatever you want up against your
How many
Walter
times?
Payton.
How many times do you think he said it?
Over 20. Easy.
Okay, I'll take that bet. Hold on, I'll take that bet. How much do you want to bet?
Walter Payton rookie versus what?
Let's do. What do you have to put up against it?
You name the price because I'm not losing.
Your warehouse.
You can't put the Walter up against.
You
the
said
warehouse.
name the price.
You got to have apples and apples.
I'll put $100 up saying I didn't mention it more than 20 times.
Okay, I'll do 100.
Okay.
Perfect. So
all right.
Over the entire show, you have not mentioned Shakari more than 20 times.
I agree with that.
And if it's 20 or more,
now
$100.
Are you saying that I said the word?
Yeah, you said Shakari literally over 20 times. Easy.
No way. No way.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We're gonna have fun with this one, guys. $100 is on the line. Brian, are you in on this?
Yeah. Well, how can you do a 3-way bet? You can't do a 3-way bet unless you plan on paying both of us $100.
I'll pay both of you. I don't care.
Okay, I'm in it. Yeah, I'm in it.
I'm pretty sure I mentioned him probably about as many times as you brought up some old ass story that isn't relevant anymore.
Okay. then don't bother listening to any of my stories. Because they're just old and they have zero use in the modern world.
I even tried to say, man, that I'm offering constructive criticism. That's all it was. And you got so defensive, man. You went off the deep end right there. You just went off the deep end. You got so defensive. Don't have to be defensive, bro. I'm just saying, I'm
just saying, you young kids, all you young bucks think you know it all. Guess what? You know what I'm going to do this weekend?
I'm only 1 year younger than you.
I'm going to relax and do nothing. I'm going to go to my store. I'm going to wander around. I'm going to drink some coffee. And I'm not going to, this face right here, you can watch interviews with me going back 30 years. This face, it has zero stress. All of my hair is still up here. This beard.
I wish.
I got to tell you, man, the way you act in the show sometimes doesn't look like you have zero stress. You seem like you're a very high-wired, high-stress dude, bro.
I laugh at the rat race. Keep doing it. Keep doing
How
it.
did we never go to unfiltered during this show?
I know, right? This whole show is unfiltered. Let's do it.
Yo, is this? All right.
you agree?
All right, there we go. Do it right. Well, we should have done that in the very beginning. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have some news and notes on the world of Diamond. Diamond tells publishers about outstanding invoices and future payments. There is some confusion out there about who will be paying those invoices and those future payments. And it sounds like Diamond, aka AdPop, was coming out to tell everybody how to decide who you're going to hear from and what you're going to get. Does that sound like I'm explaining that correctly?
Yep.
Yes. Now, this article was a tad off. I think the person that wrote the article thought that Diamond had declared BK7, and they did not. They declared BK11, which means everybody should get pretty much close to paid. Dennis, what was the final number you said?
So we believe the final sale was 49 million, and at the time of the bankruptcy, early January, there was only 39 million. Now, I did hear the second story about Diamond today, Brian, and we didn't send it to you because I read it right before the show went. Diamond was given an $8 million loan to operate while the bankruptcy was going on. And apparently they have dipped into that, but it was supposed to end on May 30th. And they're asking the courts to expand that. Now, that 8 million is just the 8 million sitting in a coffer to keep the lights on, keep the mortgage paid, and, pay the employees. So, but asking to dip into that and extend that number, I don't know how I feel about that, but it's all within the due bounds of a typical bankruptcy.
Right.
But what Jesse and I were talking about pre-show is the 49 million goes into the bank. That 39 million gets paid out against it before any of this other stuff. So as we read those numbers for the last, how many? 5 months?
Yep.
Marvel's owed 2 million, DC's owed 1 million, or Lunar and DC are owed 1 million, Image's owned 500,000. Whatever those numbers all add up to, it's still going to add up to 39 million plus whatever was accrued during the bankruptcy until everybody cut Diamond off, basically.
Yep.
That gets paid first out of that 49 million. Now, maybe some people have racked it up to 51 million. That 49 against the 51, maybe everyone gets paid 80-90% of what they're owed.
Yep.
But this is a statement from AdPop going, that's everything before May 15th when we got the keys to the car. You need to take that up with the court. That 49 million or 39 million that's owed to you, that comes out of the 49 that we already put into the coffers.
Yep.
Everything from this point forward, that's what we owe you.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think what happened was the article technically said these people weren't going to get paid. They are going to get paid. We don't know if they'll then get 100%, but it's going to get paid. There's a lot of people that didn't read the whole article, went on a rampage that they weren't getting a penny. They are going to get paid. The 49 million is not going to go to Steve Jeffy family. It's going to go to the people they owe money to. So just to clarify that. But going forward, May 15th going forward, which is very interesting because that also means that AdPop will be doing some business with publishers, apparently.
Yeah, they did put out a post. Let me see if I can find this recently on right here. Diamond right here. Yeah, Diamond Comics Distributors sends letter of assurance to comic shops. Diamond Comics Distributors reassures comic shops of continued operations after major company shakeups. This was the 23rd. So, dear Diamond customer, as you know, Diamond Comics Distributors is now part of the AdPop family. This marks a new beginning with a future of greatly enhanced product offerings, as well as a time of transition. Naturally, it also brings with it questions, many decisions still taking shape, and we're actively working through this next chapter. and what actively looking through this next chapter should look like. That means some near-term uncertainty. This is a complex process, and we're focused on moving forward with intention, making decisions to best position us for the long-term stability. That said, we do want to address some of the more immediate questions in your mind. If you place an order with us, will you receive it? Their answer is yes. Our order processing and fulfillment operations remain active, and fulfilling your orders reliably remains a top priority. What about,
Starting when?
yeah, exactly. What about your Penguin Random House orders? We are pausing PRH orders for product with an on-sale date after June 25th while we work with publishers to resolve the disruption and provide clear guidance. What about comics in general? We are working with publishers and vendors to ensure continuity across the categories that matter most to your business. We will share updates as more details take shape. In the meantime, the support center on the retailer service website remains the best place to go with any questions or concerns. So the funny thing here is that this whole first paragraph sounds like they're getting ready for them to say, we're stopping,
Yep.
This is a complex process. We're focused on moving forward with intention, making decisions to best position us for long-term stability. That means we're done. We're cutting this out. So,
Yeah, it's not like the warehouse, the power went off and the machines aren't running.
I didn't get my diamond order.
Yeah, at
Really?
the end of the day, who is left to distribute? That's the question. Who's left to distribute? I mean, is Dynamite going to keep Ad Pop in business?
no, probably not. But who knows if Ad Pop's even if Dynamite is there, they probably have already made a decision. I will say
Who's
this.
that?
I will say this real quickly when it comes to Dynamite and Nick Barucci. I did talk to Nick. Nick said that they have a lot of plans to move forward and continue with Dynamite. They're working on making it happen. They are talking with distributors now and working on a plan for that. And they are moving forward, and Dynamite will continue to be a comics publisher. So a lot of people have asked this show, what is happening with Dynamite? That's been one of the biggest questions we've asked. And Nick said, let people know that we are going to move forward, and we're going to find a partner that will distribute Dynamite with us and work with us to continue, getting the product out to you guys, the consumer and the retailers out there. So what that means and how that looks, we don't know yet, but they are working on it.
Wow.
Well, if
So
they
here-
don't do comics, who
Just-
do they expect to be buying from them if they're not doing comics?
Everyone
I
who
know there's-
loves the fine products at NECA and WizKids.
Well, is that all they're going to carry? Is NECA and WizKids?
I don't know.
I don't think
I mean-
I've bought any of those ever.
I mean, I just want to say my piece. 5 months. Elevator's gone up, elevator's gone down, up and down, up and down. This is what the leadership at Diamond wanted for this industry. Do you remember when they were going to accept the lower bid for the exact same people who have it now, and it was for the best thing for the industry? And we said, no, it's not. This show very clearly said, why is this better? And no one could answer that. And now we see it's everyone's fear of what Alliance might have done, Alliance ENT. But nobody's bitching that, oh my God, Alliance is gonna stop distributing comics. And AdPop just said, yeah, we don't give a fuck about your comics.
Yep.
Just fucking go.
Yep. It's kind of shitty.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
I think they didn't say that exactly. I think they left the door open, and it seems like they're going to close it behind them, but it may not happen. But regardless, they do have product, and if they sell it at a price that I can make money at, I'll probably still keep my Diamond account.
Right. And-
AENT, I was so excited. I went to their website and I signed up immediately for account directly with them. There's no money to be made with them. is lost leaders maybe, but like their profit margins are so tiny.
Have you ever bought NECA Direct?
Not direct, no, but I've bought their stuff through Diamond.
Yeah, and what were your profit margins versus that?
Well, I usually only buy stuff if I can make my profit margin. So it either
They're
was
the
on
ones that made the
sale-
short boxes for a long time. They printed the short boxes.
Yeah, but then they would go on sale for $30. Not $30. They would go on sale the 5 for like $20.
Yeah.
Yeah, the interesting part about this is we still haven't got to the inventory part of Diamond with Dynamite, with Image, with Titan, and all these other people. And I think that's when the things are going to really hit the fan, because the inventory is not going to match what it's supposed to be. And none of these publishers took the initiative. The day they announced bankruptcy, they should have been in there, starting counting.
Jesse, what show full of old people telling old stories told everybody that?
Yeah, it's crazy. And for them,
Oh no, it's insane.
yeah,
Because you know why? Because I remember all the bankruptcies that have happened for the last 20 to 30 years that I've been involved with.
Yeah,
That's a good
But
example.
those are just old stories that don't have any bearing on anything today.
That's a good example of you having a relevant story.
Oh, thanks, Sean.
Good job.
I wait with bated breath to hear what Sean Hadachko thinks about my relevance.
We all wait for you, Dennis, to tell us what we all should think.
Okay.
So not only did we have that happen this week, we also lost a major longtime creator in the comic book industry at a very young age. Rest in peace to Peter David, who passed away, I believe, at 61 years old, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
Young.
I don't know how old Peter was in that picture, but Peter looked exactly like I've known Peter for 25 years when he passed away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Favorite Peter David series?
Hulk. Yeah. Hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say Hulk, and a close second for me would be X Factor.
Yeah. I just sold this book this last week on an eBay live sale. I love that cover, but I remember this old storyline, man. It was crazy. So, but
his Hulk was real good.
Oh,
it was
man.
real good. I agree with Dennis.
I also didn't he write Exiles? Did he write Exiles? I can't remember.
Yeah, he was part of it.
Oh man, I used to love his Exiles. His Aquaman too was excellent. The Aquaman where he lost his arm.
Yeah. His Supergirl, his reboot of Supergirl in the 90s was so much fun. I mean, she was kind of like younger than what my reading group was, but I before anybody was like, "Oh, hey, how are you writing young women without hiring women to write it?" Peter David did a pretty damn good job writing Supergirl.
68 years old. Sorry, not 61. 68 years old.
Yeah.
He had real bad health. I was reading a little bit about.
Yeah.
Man, it was sad how he went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's our tradition, our culture. The one good thing about the industry is we do rally around our comic book family quite a bit. And I think that's one big benefit that I always notice in this industry compared to other industries is we're a close, no matter how we sound separate, we are a close-knit family in this indesty. So
yeah.
Did he create Spider-Man 2099?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Him
and he also
Leonardi.
I just read it. Was he the one that came up with ripping the bones out of Wolverine? For Fatal Attraction?
He did write Fatal Attractions.
Yeah.
He did. I don't know if I don't know if that was his idea for the bone claws.
Well, here's the thing. Apparently, I just watched a reel that popped up right after he passed away, and I was like, Jesus, I never knew that fucking story. And they're basically talking in the thing, and they're like, we need some big event to cap off the end of this issue. And Peter's like, do what I always say, rip fucking Wolverine's bones out. And they're like, you know what? Because apparently Peter just always wanted to rip Wolverine's bones out.
Yeah.
And this time they were like, oh, yeah, this fits perfect.
That's a great story.
Yeah, find that reel and share it.
Yeah.
Tag me in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's he won an Eisner for Best Writer Artist Team in 1992 with Del Keown for The Incredible Hulk, which everybody obviously loved. We talked about that.
Yeah.
That's also when Eisner's really meant something.
Yes.
Yep.
A lot of those McFarlane covers were on his run.
And remember
Oh,
how
yeah.
McFarlane and him got into it after, him and McFarlane worked together on that Hulk run. And then when McFarlane left for Image, man, Peter David did not take that well.
No.
They had that famous debate at a convention back in the day where Todd thought he was just going to go up there and have fun and it wasn't something serious. And Peter came out there all, like lawyer, all these points and craziness.
He pulled a Dennis on him. What you're saying?
Yeah, he pulled a Dennis on him. Yes.
He got him.
So
we're not going to not talk about this. That's good.
So
I mean, he had every right though to
I've been friends with him for years on Facebook. Had a lot of good conversations with him, and he's just one of the. And I zero agreed with him politically, and we always maintained that professionalism between me and him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I like about and I mean, I give Dennis shit all the time, but I would have a beer with Dennis and hang out with him, consider him a friend. Like it's none of this shit. It takes so much to offend me or make me mad. Like I don't take things personal. Nobody to be an adult and a grown up, especially as dudes, we talk shit to each other. That's what we do. We throw shit back and forth. There's always a little bit of truth to what we're saying. If I want to hear it, if that's cool. If not, then fuck you. I'll tell you fuck you. Tell me to fuck you. And we'll have a beer together.
Yeah.
Who cares?
It's so funny because this show didn't happen because me and Dennis went at it.
Stop! You don't need to fucking tell that story.
Fuck you! Fuck you! I'm going. Oh my god, is this show gonna happen?
And then it was fine, but you have to be able to live life like that around your compadres and your people in the business, and if you don't have thick skin, I mean,
we come from different places, man. It's
I've got to tell an old timey story. There's an old cartoon called The Sheepdog versus the Wile E. Coyote back in the old 20th century, and the sheepdog and the coyote would fight all day long, and then the lunch bell rang, and they would go have lunch together. And then the lunch bell rang again and time to go back to work. And they would pick up right where they left off.
I remember that. That was funny.
Speaking of sheepdogs,
that's too long ago for you,
I
Sean. You got to stick with the new cartoons.
I'm only 1 year younger than you.
So back in the day with those sheepdogs, I saw a sheepdog take on 4 wolves the other day in a video. I was like, oh my god, dude. Yeah. So don't fuck with those sheepdogs. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, 3.5 hours almost on this show. Before we leave, we got 4 guys here who all have brick and mortars. Did anything crazy collection wise walk into your guys' store this week?
I mean, I had 30 Nintendo games come in. I had 3 long boxes come in from a collection where the guy literally half the collection was still in the bags with my buddy's comic shop receipts in it. And none of the tape had been broken. I can't remember.
No 86, 87 Fleer sets like Emmett had last week.
Yeah. So no, but Emmett did bring this up. This is my fanny pack that I do wear every day at work.
Joe Rogan wears a fanny pack.
People do still wear fanny packs.
No, it's not about it's the how they wear them. One, it has to be leather
this way. Yeah.
And then they wear it like a bandolier.
Yeah.
I had a dude bring in. It was a couple weeks ago. It looked like, I can't remember where this came from, but there were like these wooden, not 11 by 17, but like 8 by 10 wooden comic book pictures. They're like 3D, like somebody cut out.
I know what you're
Superman,
talking about.
Put it on a background. Remember those like Kmart used to have them or something, right? It's like 20 of these
cool
things
shit.
Came through the store, and I asked my dude how much he paid for him. He's like, I don't remember. That means he didn't want to tell me.
Yeah.
I was like, you probably pay way too fucking much for him. But I was looking through them and I was like, I low-key want to keep like half of these. These are cool as shit. Like there were some Punisher ones in there. Like I was like, can you imagine them selling Punisher stuff now at like Target? Like they're probably getting in trouble.
Not gonna happen, right? Not gonna happen. So, all right, you guys.
I got nothing. I got a huge, like it's been coming in waves and pieces. A Hot Wheels collection that
I did
had
too. Yep.
insane stuff from the Red Line online, not like the stuff from the 70s. The new stuff that has the drops that are only like 4,000, 5,000 cars. They were worth big money.
That's a whole nother world too, is those Hot Wheels collections.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's
wild.
If they bring it into my store, I buy it.
So not to drag this out, but one more question. Anybody have any major impacts from tariffs on anything in their world?
No. I did see that we talked about Super 7. Yeah. Supplies. BCW.
Yeah, I know who was it? Iron, it's a statue company, raised their fees 5%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I know you're talking about.
That. Yeah, I saw
those.
that.
I forgot their name too.
Yeah.
I buy from those guys. Great statues.
Yeah, great guys.
statues.
Yeah, 5% increase there.
Buy all your plastic now.
Yeah.
BCW raised their. They put a little check mark or something on their website if something's affected by. It comes from China. There's like a little mark by the product, and then there's a tariff fee added to it. Right in the middle of all the I'll tell something stupid I did. I should know better by now, but I don't have the age-old wisdom of Dennis and these old guys. But I right in the middle of all the China tariffs, they're 136%. We're running low on top loaders, and I'm like, God damn, man! Like we had an order ready to buy from China. Like when we get them from China, we get them for pretty cheap, even shipped on a plane, which is expensive shipping anyway. Like half what BCW charges at wholesale cost. But we couldn't get them because they're like the ports are shut down for like a 2-week period, 3-week period. The ports were shut down. So I'm on BCW's website and I'm like, well, they got top loaders in, but they raised the price. They added a tariff fee on there. So it would normally cost us like $3. There was an extra. It was almost double the cost. Yeah. And I told my guy, I was like, you know what? We need them. F it, do it, buy them. So we paid that stupid ass $2,500 fee on top of the top loaders.
Oh my God.
And not even a week later, all the fees went away, all the tariffs were back from them. And I was like, I am a fucking idiot. Like I should have known to just wait. We didn't need them. And then I made a post about top loader prices going up. So, a buddy of mine owns a big ass store in Pittsburgh. He hits me up and he's like, hey, I got a pallet here. You want them? And I was like, he sold to me for super cheap. I sent somebody in the van to go pick him up. I was like,
that is something real quick I want to talk about also, because that's another thing that I think needs to happen more often is that like retailers should lean on each other more. Does it feel like they don't lean on each other more for stuff like that?
I'm bad about asking for help. Like that's a flaw for me, is most dudes are the same way.
Yeah.
Right. Especially, and I don't mean to sound like a douchebag here, but some of the more alpha type personalities, the guys that are more business owners, we're guys that like to strike out on our own. We don't like to listen to people. We kind of buck the system, fight the man, whatever. We're kind of like do shit on our own. Right.
Yep.
We don't like to ask for help. It's a kind of a personality flaw.
Yeah.
Not all of us, but some I'm definitely that way. So I'm getting better about it, because at the end of the day, I'm like, would I rather ask for help or would I rather lose $2,500 like an idiot? Clearly I chose the latter. All you gotta do is reach out, man. Like people have stuff. You need boards and bags. Somebody has boards and bags. You need some extra issues that you sold out of. Somebody's got them. You got stuff you got to unload. Somebody will buy them from you at cost. You're not going to be like, who wants my Battle Beast bags? I'll sell them to you for $15 a piece. It's like, screw you, man. You paid $2, $2.50 for them.
Yeah.
I'll buy them from you from $3. How's that? Like, as long as you're not a jerk about things, man, the industry, man, we hold each other up all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I've gotten tons of advice from Jesse. We talk about things all the time,
Well, That being said, you guys can find all their links in the description below. Go check out Comics Elite. Go check out Bird City. Go check out Haven for Heroes, Wonderworld Comics, and Jesse James Comics.
Hey, let me before you go off, I want to help you on your tariffs. So last week, we need a refrigerator for the back room in the store. So I go online and I see this great refrigerator on a table, right? So I'm like, oh my gosh, it's only $200 for this refrigerator, right? Package came in today. I open it up. It's the table. Yep. and in the picture, I go to the picture and it says refrigerator not included in big letters. So there you go.
Okay, I don't feel like such an idiot. Thank you.
I help you out there.
And then one last thing, like I said, I'm the guy that does a show talking about variants and them being on the death knell, who just put out his very first variant. Go check out the new webpage, beyondwednesdays.store. You can get your guys' grommets number 7 Beyond Wednesdays variant limited to 500. Or you can just go to the YouTube page and hit store. They're available there on the YouTube page. So that being said, we appreciate everybody that supports us here. Shout out to all these guys joining us tonight. Appreciate everybody jumping in with us. And I also want to give a big shout out to everybody that supported us tonight with super chats and donated membership. Shout out to KRS Comics. Shout out to our boy Ronnie, and shout out to Alex Lodemeyer. And we appreciate you guys for everything. Much love. I got to go take a pee. We'll see you soon.